Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Microsoft 365 Fundamentals course, also known as MS-900. Now, the MS-900 is not just the name for the course, but it also happens to be the exact same name that you're going to be using for the official exam associated to the course. So if you want to go write the exam, you're going to be looking for the code MS-900. It's exactly the same. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, this video or this course is going to be quite lengthy. At the end of the day, this is the full course in one video. So you can expect this video to be at least about roughly 4 hours. That's normally how long it takes to cover all the contents in this specific course. The course consists of 4 modules. So if you go do the official course with any Microsoft partner, the official course consists of 4 modules. And that's exactly what we're going to be covering in this specific video. So that's what we've got in the agenda. So on the agenda, I'm not going to go and list everything that's going to be in this course because it's simply going to be too long. If you want a full list of what's covered in this course, or at least a better list of what's covered in this course, you can find a more detailed list in the video description down below. All right, as for the agenda, the first module we're going to be covering, obviously module 1, is going to be Azure fundamental concepts. Once we've covered that, I expect module 1 to go relatively quick because that's only a short module. We'll move on to module 2, which is Microsoft 365 core services and concepts, after which we'll do module 3, Microsoft 365 security and compliance capabilities. And then lastly, we'll move on to the last module being module 4, Microsoft 365 licensing, service, and support. Now, those are currently the 4 official names for the 4 official modules in this course, but they are subject to change. Microsoft reserves the right to go and change the names for any course or any module at any point in time. With the last update, which was, I believe, in May, somewhere between May and July 2022, this was the official names for the official modules. But they are subject to change, obviously over time. If you happen to do this course, after about a year or two after this video was released, for the most part, the concepts should stay the same. At the end of the day, 1 plus 1 is still going to be 2. But Microsoft will go and add 1 or 2 little thingies, and they'll go and remove 1 or 2 little thingies which they consider legacy now. Legacy simply means something is now considered too old and too outdated to be in the course. So if you're going to go watch this video after about 1 or 2 years after being released, you should still be okay. For the most part, you should still be able to pass the exam. But just keep in mind there might possibly be 1 or 2 extra things that's now been added to the course. But you can still watch the course. You should still be fine when it comes to the exam. Right, guys, so there you have it. There is the first 4 modules, the only 4 modules in this course. It's going to take us quite a while. Some of these modules, I think from module 2 has subsections. We can call them main sections. I think module 1 doesn't have any main sections. It's going to be the shortest and the quickest one. From module 2, we're going to have main sections, and within those main sections, we're going to have subsections. That's just how it is. That's Microsoft for you. So once again, you can find all of those topics in the video description down below. Alright folks, before we move into module 1 here, if you haven't done it already, please do me a favor and boink that like button. It really does help me. It helps the channel, it helps boost this video. And then obviously more folks that cannot afford to pay for courses like this, that really needs resources like this, they'll be able to find this video a lot easier. So you won't just be helping me, you'll be helping your fellow IT colleagues out there in the world. And then also, if you'd like to know when I release other courses like this one, or if you just like my content, feel free to subscribe. Alright folks, let's jump into module 1 here, which is Azure Fundamental Concepts. The idea of this first module in the course is just to first explain the basics of cloud, Azure, and Microsoft 365 in general. You can basically say the first module is to lay the foundation for what is to come. Alright, with that being said, let's start you folks off nice and slow with the different types of cloud we actually get. Yes, you heard correct, the different types. So, first up, we've got public cloud. This is probably the most well-known and the most widely used type of cloud you get. With public cloud, everything you use is completely somewhere else on someone else's property. That happens to also be a good way of explaining what the cloud is in general. The cloud in general is usually when you put something somewhere else on someone else's property. This someone else could be anywhere in the world. They could be next door, they can be in a different country. It doesn't matter where that someone else is, it doesn't matter who that someone else is. The fact that you're putting it on someone else's property and the fact that they're rendering it back to you over the internet for a fee of sorts, this is normally like a monthly fee, could be a yearly fee, it's normally a subscription, and yeah, that basically makes it cloud, guys. So if I put it on my own server, my own desktop, my own laptop, and I access it over the network or just on my own machine, that's just that. It's not cloud. But as soon as I put it on someone else's property and they render it back to me as a service for a fee over the internet, ha! Now that is the cloud. Anyway, getting back to the public cloud topic, public cloud is when you or your company is fully making use of resources that is some. Anyway, getting back to the public cloud topic, public cloud is when you or your company are now fully making use of resources that is on someone else's platform. In this case, that would be Microsoft. So if we use public cloud with Microsoft, we can say all your stuff is now on Microsoft server. Microsoft will then render these resources back to you or your customers or your users for a monthly fee. With every form of cloud we're going to list here, there's going to be both benefits as well as drawbacks, like you would expect with, well, pretty much anything in life. With public cloud, one of the main benefits is everything is somewhere else and operated by a third party. That means it is not your problem. A drawback might be if you're a control freak who likes to be fully in control. Now, don't get me wrong, with public cloud, you still have a lot of control. How much control exactly depends on what type of public cloud you choose to make use of. Yes, I just said what type of public cloud. I bet some of you are confused now. So, believe it or not, within the cloud type, which is public cloud, you actually get subcategories. We'll get to that topic in a moment once we've covered this list we're currently busy with. All right, so another type of cloud you get besides public cloud, which we've already mentioned here, is private cloud. A private cloud consists of computing resources used exclusively by users from one business or organization. A private cloud can be physically located at your organization's on premises data center, or it can be hosted by a third party service provider. With private cloud, you have a lot more control over everything. So if you're a control freak, this is the option for you. The drawback to this option is it's insanely expensive, especially if your data center is on your premises. The cost to build and maintain it all is just astronomical in most cases. All right, and then we have another type of cloud, which is the last one of this specific list. That type of cloud would be hybrid cloud. The word hybrid is used a lot in IT for various things. And if you know what hybrid means, you'll probably already have a pretty good idea of what hybrid cloud could be. A hybrid cloud is when you basically go mix those two cloud types we've already spoke of, the public cloud and the private cloud. A hybrid cloud is a computing environment which combines a public cloud and private cloud by allowing data and applications to be shared between them. Yeah, folks, a lot of people think the cloud is just one thing, but that isn't the case. You get so many types of cloud. I mean, heck, just a moment ago I told you all you even get subcategories types of cloud. Freaking crazy, right? Technology is moving so fast at this point in time, it's just crazy. Now, next up, we're not going to discuss those subcategories of cloud just yet. That's still coming up though. First, we're going to look at cloud benefits and considerations. Wow, it looks like I'm trying to sell you folks something. I assure you, I'm not trying to sell you something. The benefits I'm about to list are in fact real, and you can go and check them out for yourself. Microsoft is not paying me to mention these benefits to you, so no, I'm not getting anything out of this. The first one on the list I have for you is high availability. When using the cloud, in this case Microsoft's cloud platforms, you get something called high availability. If you don't know what high availability is, it means that whatever service is being rendered is ideally never unavailable. If you, for example, have a server on premises, physically at your company now, that is rendering you or users some sort of service, what happens if that server goes down for whatever reason? In most cases, the service that was being rendered would now be unavailable. You could, however, counter this on premises by doing lots of things, like, for example, getting two or more servers that are identical, clones, in other words. If the one server then goes offline for whatever reason, the backup clone server or servers, if there's more than one, will keep rendering the service that was being rendered, whatever that service might be. So with cloud, Microsoft has so many redundancies in place. The service you're being rendered will almost never be unavailable. They have a 99.9% uptime guarantee, which is actually another benefit, by the way, and it's not even going to be listed here. That 99.9% uptime guarantee is really important because with on-premises, it's nearly impossible to get that kind of uptime. For you to get that kind of uptime on premises, it would cost you a small fortune. All right, so yeah, our first benefit here is availability. Next, we have the benefit of scalability. Like usual, if you don't know what that means, let me use the example of servers on premises. If you do scaling on premises, because that is something you can actually do on premises, that could either be when you upgrade the existing servers by giving them more resources, like extra RAM, or more hard disk storage space, or it could be when you add extra clone servers to help with the workload. So yeah, whether you add more resources to your existing servers or whether you just add a whole new extra clone server, both are examples of scaling, just on premises now, but still an example of scaling. Now, both of these are certainly possible on premises, but it's usually very, very expensive and also very, very time consuming. If I want to just upgrade an existing server on premises with more RAM, it can definitely be done, but now I have to sometimes order the RAM module or RAM chip first. That's going to take some time. It could take a couple of days, could take weeks. Once you eventually have that RAM module, now you will have to arrange for downtime just to be able to turn the server off. This is usually going to have to happen after hours, because we can't just go and turn servers off during working hours, in other words, production hours, because that's bad. Now, if the server was in the cloud, though, you would not have to wait that long or struggle that much. You can nearly instantly upgrade the RAM of your server, and you won't even need to go and turn it off. Yeah, how cool is that? Now, what about adding more clone servers to help with that workload? That's a very expensive task to do on premises, and it can also take super long. Sometimes you still have to actually go and build the server yourself. So they might come there in spare parts and you have to actually go and build the dang thing yourself. So whether you build it yourself or whether you just order a full complete server, either way it's going to take forever and a day. You still have to go and set up the server afterwards and all of that. Now, if this was in the cloud, you can be up and running with the new extra service within minutes. So what I'm actually saying here is scalability is something we've always had, but it's just not that easy or that affordable on premises. Now, in the cloud, it's super easy, super affordable, and super quick. So with regards to the scaling I just spoke of, if you upgrade an existing server with more resources like RAM and hard drives, that is what we call scaling up, also known as vertical scaling. If you were to go and drop extra additional clone servers alongside your current existing servers, that will be called scaling out. Not scaling up, scaling out. And it's also known as horizontal scaling. Both scaling up and scaling out is way cheaper, way quicker, and way easier in the cloud, like we said before. Heck, in the cloud, you can also go and scale back down if you want to or need to. On premises, you would be stuck with what you got, because normally once you've bought something and once you've installed it, well, you're kind of stuck with it. In the cloud, however, that is not the case. If need be, if you need to, or if you want to, you can at any point in time go and scale back down. Now, you might probably be wondering to yourself, okay, why would you want to go and do that? Well, the reason for that is if you do not use something in the cloud, you don't pay for it. So if I don't need all of that RAM or if I don't need that many servers, I could very easily go and scale back down, which means I'm not going to be paying for it. Pretty nifty, right? All right, moving on with our list of benefits. Even though I've accidentally mentioned a few extra ones, which aren't even on this list provided by Microsoft. Next, we have the benefit of elasticity. Hope I pronounced that correctly. With this benefit, Microsoft simply refers to the fact that you can very quickly change something on their platforms. Azure is a good example of that. Heck, the servers I spoke of just a few moments ago is even a good example of that. If you have a server on Microsoft Azure, you can nearly instantly change anything about it while it's still live and while it's still running. You can scale it up, you can scale it back down, you can also do a lot of other cool changes. We also have auto scaling, which is really cool, by the way. The platform will automatically assign the correct amount of resources to whatever you need. Now, that is useful to have, wouldn't you say? Another benefit on our list is agility. This simply refers to having the ability to deploy and configure cloud-based resources quickly as your app requirements change. Then we have the benefit of geo-distribution. Now, I'm sure most of you already know that Microsoft has data centers all over the world. That's great for everyone because ideally you want to use a data center as close as possible to the user. The closer the data center is to the user in question, the less latency, and that is all very, very good, obviously. So when Microsoft mentions the benefit on the list called geo-distribution, they're referring to the fact that you can go and make use of any of their many, many data centers worldwide. If needed, you can also go make use of multiple data centers at the same time, depending on your unique requirements and your unique needs for your user, of course. So if you've got users in multiple countries and not just one, who's to say that you have to use one data center? There's no rule against that. You can go and use multiple data centers. And it's probably going to cost you more money if you're going to go use more than one. Another benefit to that, though, is never mind people having less latency, you're going to have clones of your data in multiple countries. So that's just another form of backup if you think about it. The last benefit we have here on the list is disaster recovery. So speaking of backups, eh? Now, folks, the list we have here in front of us is absolutely not all the benefits you get. These are simply the only ones mentioned in this specific course by Microsoft. All the other benefits I mentioned extra so far, which were not on the list, are not things you have to worry about from an exam point of view. Otherwise, I would have listed them here for you on this list. So those really were just extra. So yeah, there you go. Extra free information, which is not even part of the course. So if it's not on the list, don't worry about it. Anyway, as for the disaster recovery benefit, Microsoft has such a big budget and they have so many redundancies and backups in place, you can literally just sit back and relax for once in IT. Normally, all that stuff would be your problem and your responsibility. Now, Microsoft is responsible for most of that. Between the cloud-based backups and the data replication and also the geo-distribution, your data will definitely be safe and out of harm's way. Alrighty folks, let's get to those subcategories of cloud I spoke of at the beginning of the course. You would remember I said you get subcategories of cloud, and that's what we're going to list and explain here now. So within the public cloud category, you get three main subcategories of public cloud. Please note though that the three I'm about to list here and explain for you guys are not the only ones. These are simply the three main ones you'll be working with. These are also the only ones you'll get asked about in the exam, so pay attention. But if you happen to hear of any other forms of public cloud, don't worry about them. They're not part of this course and they're not going to ask you about those in the exam. So only the three I'm about to mention are the ones you need to worry about. So what are these three main subforms of public cloud? Here is a picture of sorts for you guys which lists all three with basic little descriptions there. Now, of all three of these, you are definitely going to relinquish some level of control. How much control you will still have at the end of the day depends on which one of these on this list you're actually using. If you look at the pyramid, the one way there at the bottom is the one where you will still have the most control, if you have to do a comparison between these. As you work your way up the pyramid, you will have less and less control. So we can say the one way at the top is the one where you're going to have the least amount of control. With each and every one of these on this list, they each have their own benefits and their own drawbacks. I mean, no surprise, right? A benefit to having less control, though, is if you look at the one way at the top, a benefit to having less control would be the fact that it's now Microsoft's problem and it's their responsibility. Oh, I love saying that. Finally, for once in IT, we can point the finger to someone else. I'm sure you folks have seen everything is always the IT person's fault. Usually, in most companies and environments, people love to blame the IT people. This is usually for stuff that has nothing to do with you, and it's often got nothing to do with IT even in general. So, for example, if the paint doesn't want to dry on the walls, it's the IT person's fault. If the lights don't want to work, if they don't want to turn on, it's the IT person's fault. You see what I mean? It's got nothing to do with IT, but yet it's your fault. Just because you've got the word IT in your job description, it is your fault. It's always the IT guy's fault. Anyway, so looking at that pyramid, let's start at the bottom with IaaS. Now, to be able to explain this topic, we first have to clarify what is seen as infrastructure by Microsoft. So, what is infrastructure? At least, what is it on premises, should I say? So, to help elaborate on that, I'm going to show you guys a practical example here. So, here we go.
A few moments later.
Okay, so if you are wondering where the heck we are right now, we're currently in Microsoft's Hyper-V Manager. So this is a tool that you can either go and turn on as a feature on Windows 10 or Windows 11, or you can go and add it as a role on a server. And essentially, it allows you to go and create and manage virtual machines. So exactly like a real computer or like a real server, it's just virtual, and it shares the resources of the actual host on which they're running. So what I've got there, those are two completely random virtual machines. There's one that's got Windows 10 installed. There is a virtual machine that's got Windows Server 2019 installed. So it's its whole own operating system. It's got its own amount of RAM assigned to it, the whole shebang. Now, at the moment, these two virtual machines are running on my computer. So if I were to go and turn that one on there that says Windows 10, it's going to take RAM from my machine because it doesn't actually have its own RAM. So it's, yeah, to be able to do that, you need to have a lot of RAM on your machine. You need to have a lot of hard drive space because at the end of the day, if I install Windows on that machine and I go and dump a bunch of files on that machine, where's it going to store it all? It's going to store it on my computer. And it's going to use some of my CPU power. So you need a very beefed up machine to be able to run virtual machines on your computer. Now, these virtual machines is an example of infrastructure, but it's just that. It's just infrastructure because it's running on my laptop, my desktop, or my company's server. Now, if I were to go and take these virtual machines and upload their virtual hard drives into the cloud onto something like Microsoft Azure, or if I were to go and create these virtual machines from scratch on Microsoft Azure, what do we call that? That would be an example of infrastructure as a service. You'd remember earlier I said public cloud is when everything is somewhere else on someone else's property. Now, this is one example of that. Here, we've got virtual machines, but they're currently on my property, which is my laptop, my desktop, or my company server. And if I go and make these from scratch or upload them onto Microsoft Azure, they're now being stored on Microsoft servers. They will be using Microsoft's RAM and they will be using Microsoft CPU power. And Microsoft's going to render those virtual machines back to me as a service for a monthly fee. So to further help elaborate on this, let's switch over to the Microsoft Azure portal.
A few moments later.
Right, folks, here we are on the Microsoft Azure portal. You don't have to worry about all of this stuff. This course is not really about Azure per se. So I'm going to go here to the left-hand side. This is known as the navigation pane on the Azure portal. It used to always be locked in place, but now I see it just disappears automatically on its own for the last year or so. So here's a list of some of the functions and features you've got access to on the Azure portal. The Azure portal is absolutely not limited to these functions and features you see here. These are simply some of the most common benefits the average user would need or would like to go and make use of. If you don't find what you're looking for here, you're going to have to go around and search for it there, or you can go here to all services or create a resource. That's just some of the ways you can go and access it. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, which is IaaS, Infrastructure as a Service, there we have virtual machines. Except now, it's in the cloud. Now, virtual machines is definitely not the only example of infrastructure as a service. This is just one of the most common examples you'll probably find out there, and it's probably one of the easiest ones to elaborate. And since 365 Fundamentals, which is the course you guys are doing, is not just done, this course is not just attended by people that know IT. A lot of people are doing this for the very first time in their career. Someone has maybe just switched over to IT. Some of the people watching this course are not even in IT. They might be in sales or something. They would just like to know more about 365 in general. So I have to keep this as simple as possible. And also to help you guys actually pass this exam. At the end of the day, the goal here is to help a lot of you guys pass this exam. So I'm going to really do all I can to try and simplify the living heck out of things for you guys. So these virtual machines here, I could have either made them from scratch, or I could have uploaded the virtual hard drives, to the cloud. Although these 5 have actually been made from scratch. So it's still infrastructure, except these are now an example of infrastructure as a service. Microsoft is rendering these virtual machines back to me as a service for a monthly fee. All right, let's get back to that list of ours. All right, so if we look at that pyramid at the bottom right, we've now pretty much more or less covered the bottom one there, infrastructure as a service. What's in the middle there? PaaS, which is short for platform as a service. This is probably one of the trickiest ones to go and explain. So for this one, I'm going to circle back to the Azure portal. All right, here we are back on the Azure portal. If I go back to that list we saw here earlier, there's a lot of things here that I can basically say is platform as a service. I think the quickest and the easiest one probably to give you guys will probably be Azure's Active Directory and Azure SQL databases. I think let's use Azure Active Directory. So, what is platform as a service? Now, if normal Active Directory on premises, not this one, normal Active Directory on premises, what would I have to do to get that up and running? You would have to first get yourself a server. This could be a physical server or a virtual server. Once you've got that up and running, you need to go and install the operating system, which is Windows Server. Once you've got that installed, you would have to go and add a role. The role you would have to go and add is the role called ADDS. It's short for Active Directory Domain Services. Once you've done that, you would have to go and create yourself a new forest, a new domain, and eventually you're going to go and promote that domain controller. It's not a difficult task. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to be able to do that. It's actually very easy. The point I'm trying to make here is it's going to take a very long time for you to get that little bugger up and running. Very, very, very time consuming. Now, if you look at this one in the cloud, which is known as Azure Active Directory, there we go on the bottom left. I'm going to click on a little bugger just to show you guys. So here we go. All right, here we are. Now, right off the bat, I can actually go in here and I can go to users. And if need be, I can go and create a bunch of users. I can go and create groups and all that. So the question I've got here for you guys, well, it's more than one question. Did I need to go and get myself a physical or virtual server just now? No, I did not. Did I need to go and install the operating system Windows Server? Nope, I did not. Did I need to go and add any kind of role like ADDS? No, I did not. So we can very safely say here that this was a lot quicker and a lot easier. That is what platform as a service is. So platform as a service is when I basically come in at the last moment, I swoop in here at the last moment, and I just basically reap the benefits. So I wouldn't say I'm going to do no work. I'm still going to do some level of work, but the amount of work I'm going to do versus what it could have been is going to be drastically less. I mean, heck, you get platform as a service in real life, although we don't call it platform as a service in real life, but you get this in real life, even when you go and do shopping. An example I like to give my students when we talk about platform as a service is, I tell the guys, visualize yourself going into a grocery store near you. Now, most grocery outlets, they probably have like a frozen veggie section. And if you go into the frozen veggie section, these days you'll find there's a lot of pre-frozen veggies. You get all kinds, different brands. Some of them are, well, actually, most of them are pre-sliced, pre-diced, pre-frozen, pre-washed, pre-mixed, pre-everything. Almost everything has been done for you. That is a real-life example of platform as a service. All you need to go and do is throw that little bag or whatever it comes in into your trolley. Go and buy it, take it home, and just go and cook it. So how you cook it's up to you. Let's say it's a pot of water. I'm going to keep it simple. Let's say, for argument's sake, you throw that into a pot of water. So that would be an example of you still doing some work there. But versus what it could have been, it's drastically less. I mean, in the old days, you would probably have to go and pick the vegetables, wash them, slice them, dice them, mix them, freeze them, and do this and do that. It's a lot of work. Can definitely be done, but it's a lot of work. So now if you go and buy that bag of frozen veggies, the amount of work you're doing is minimal. So the shopping center or whoever, throws that bag of veggies, they did most of the work for you and just kind of swooping at the last minute and reaping the benefits. Another example would probably be in that same grocery store, or maybe not that grocery store. I know it varies from country to country and store to store. But in some grocery stores, you get these pre-made meals. They often come in some sort of tin foil bowl, aluminium foil bowl or whatever, that's disposable. It's like a lasagna that's been made, a potato bake that's been made. It's some sort of pre-made meal. Could even be a veggie, it could be a vegetarian meal, it could be a vegan meal. All you need to do is take it home, pop it in the microwave oven or put it in your oven, heat it up for an X amount of time. This could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and there you go. It's ready to eat. And you can even present this meal to your family and friends and tell them that you made it, even though you didn't actually make it, and they'll never know. So that is another example of platform as a service in real life. I might have taken this too far, but hopefully it makes more sense for you guys. Like I said, at the end of the day, the idea here is to help this make more sense and to simplify the living heck out of this and to actually get you guys to pass this exam. At the end of the day, we want you to pass. All right, looking at our list again, software as a service. Now, that would be when software is now installed and running somewhere else, in this case on Microsoft servers, and they're rendering that back to you as a service. So anything that you would normally install on your laptop, desktop, or company server, let's say this is your normal Office suite. I'm gonna try and keep this to Microsoft examples. So if I have the Office package installed on my computer, that would include Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Teams, that kinds of stuff. So if I install it on my laptop or my desktop, it's just that. It's just software, it's just applications. But what if I access that remotely? Now, there's different kinds of ways you can do that. So if I install this on my company's server and access it remotely over my own internal network, is that cloud? No, it's not, because it's still on your property or your company's property. But if I were to go and run those softwares and access those softwares over the internet from Microsoft servers, is that cloud? Yes, it is. So examples of that would be probably the Office 365. Not Microsoft 365, but Office 365. So Microsoft 365 happens to include Office 365. But if you look at Microsoft 365, which is the title of the course, that also includes Windows 365, Windows 10 and Windows 11. It includes a whole bunch of other things. So the course used to be called Office 365 Fundamentals. And then not too long ago, it was rephrased to Microsoft 365 Fundamentals. A lot of people think Microsoft 365 and Office 365 is the same thing. No, they're not. Office 365, you can think of it as a subcategory within Microsoft 365. So Microsoft 365 includes Office 365, which is basically Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all that kind of stuff. So to help elaborate on that, let's switch over to the 365 portal. Alright folks, here we are on the Office 365 portal, the normal portal. I'm saying it like that because you also get admin portals. There's more than one admin portal, but that's not the topic here at hand. So if you look at here on the left hand side, there's a little navigation pane. I've got all kinds of extra goodies here. I've got PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Microsoft Teams, Outlook, just to name a few. There's lots of other things that's not even shown here. Now, first of all, whether you actually see them here when you go to the Microsoft portal depends on what kind of privilege you've got, and more importantly, what kind of subscription you've got. So the one I'm using today for my demonstrations is a trial, and it's a trial of an Enterprise E free license, which is one of the highest and most expensive licenses you guys can get. Normally with a trial, you get 30 days, pretty much unlimited access. And with a normal Office 365 trial, they normally give you 25 Enterprise E free licenses. The one I've got here also 25 Enterprise E free licenses. At least that's the last time I checked. I haven't checked today yet. So getting back to the point here, these little thingies here on the left hand side, let's say Word. If I were to go and click here on Word, let's see if I can get it to work. I'm going to click here on New Blank Document. Give it a moment to load up. And there we go, folks. I've got Word open and running within my web browser. Now, coincidentally, I do have Office installed on my local machine, but that's besides the point. So whether you had Office locally installed on your local PC or not is irrelevant. I can now go and run software and access software from the convenience of my web browser over the internet. So there's many benefits to that. One benefit is it's not going to occupy space on my local hard drive. Another benefit is if you've got a very slow or very old machine, that doesn't matter. As long as you've got an internet connection and as long as you've got a screen, you can access any application you want and run any application you want. So if you've got a slow computer, it's only got like 1 gigs of RAM, and the application you need or require that you want to go and run requires, let's say, 2 gigs or 3 gigs or 4 gigs of RAM, it doesn't matter because it's running somewhere else. It's taking some of Microsoft's RAM, and all you get to do here is reap the benefits of the actual program itself. Pretty neat, right? So hopefully this helps clarify what software as a service is. Obviously, it's not limited to Office 365 programs, but if you go look at it, Office 365 is, for the most part, just software as a service. And if you look at the Microsoft Azure portal, which we showed you guys with infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, that platform is probably all three of them. It's SaaS, it's PaaS, and it's IaaS. Oof, I can't pronounce that. It's a mouthful. So let's just say infrastructure, platform, and software as a service. All right, let's go back to that list of ours. And here we are back on the list. Okay, before we proceed to the next topic or subtopic here, guys, like I just mentioned there in my demonstration, I was using a trial there to demonstrate that. That trial is a 30-day trial that gives me 25 enterprise free licenses. You guys are welcome to go make a trial yourself. You can go run a search for it in Google if you want to. The problem of that is, yes, it's going to give you 30 days access. Yes, it's going to give you the 25 licenses I spoke of, but it's going to require certain things from you. The first thing it's going to require from you is a live ID. That's not normally a problem as long as it's an ID you have not used before with some other subscription. My suggestion to you guys would be is to go and make yourself a brand spanking new live ID purely for the purposes of this trial. You can use a fake name, fake last name, fake everything. You can do that by going to www.live.com and you can go and literally call it anything you want because it's literally going to be used just for this trial. So you can even use a fake name, fake last name, and in this way, if you're concerned about them spamming you afterwards, at least you don't have to worry about it because it's a fake email address. Not that they're going to be spamming you, by the way. The second thing they'll require from you to be able to make a trial is a bank card, usually a credit card. I haven't double checked if they accept debit cards now, but I know for a fact they ask for credit cards. I know the Azure platform, if you want to go make a trial there, which you can also go and do, that used to only accept credit cards, but they do accept debit cards now as well. With the 365 platforms or 365 trials, I'm not sure. I'll have to go and double check it. Maybe they've also changed that to also accept debit cards. Now, most of us do not feel very comfortable providing a credit card because of many reasons, security wise. And also, some of us just don't have a credit card for all we know. It's not the only problems of that. A lot of things online, and I'm not talking about Microsoft here, a lot of things online that's got trials, even legitimate things online that's got a trial. As soon as that 30-day trial runs out, they automatically start billing you. And most of us forget to go and cancel whatever this is, or we don't know how to go and cancel whatever this is. 365 is one of those things, guys. If you do not cancel the trial at the end of the 30-day trial period, they normally tend to automatically bill you. So by the end of the second month, you're not going to like what you're going to see on your credit card statement. You're going to get a surprise, and it's not the kind of surprise you want. So to help with that, I'm providing you guys with 2 links in the video description. Feel free to use them. You can use them. Don't use them. That's your choice. Now, those 2 links will both give you a 30-day trial. It's still the same website. Still takes you to the same Microsoft website. Once you click on those 2 links, any one of your choice, I think it's somewhere on the right hand side. You'll find that you can go and make yourself a trial. It's still a 30-day trial. They will both give you 25 licenses, exactly like the normal trial on Google. Now you might say, okay, but what's the difference then? These two links will not ask you for a credit card number. So you can go and use it without stressing about some sort of, automatic billing at the end of the month. So I would still suggest you go make yourself a fake live ID for the purpose of this trial. So go and make that first before you click on one of these links. Get yourself a new live ID. Once you've got that new fake live ID set up that you went and made at live.com, then you go and click on one of the two links. The one link will give you 25 enterprise E3 licenses like the normal Office trial. The other one will give you 25 enterprise E5 licenses. E5 is the highest one you can pretty much get and the most expensive one you can get. E3 is the second highest. Now, for what you guys need to do in this course, E3 will be more than sufficient. But if you're not sure which one to go and use, I would say go use the E5 because why not? Just because you can, I would say go and do it. At the end of the day, both of them will be sufficient for what you guys need to go and do. So if you want to go and test some of the stuff out that you're going to see in this course, there you guys go. Go make yourself a trial, and then you can go and pause the video at certain points in time, and you can try and mimic and replicate what I'm doing in the videos. So yeah, if you were wondering how you can go and do that, that's how you guys can go and do that. Right, so yeah, the links are not going to ask you for a credit card number. It's just going to ask you for a live ID. And once you've got that set up, for you guys go. Unfortunately, it still only lasts for 30 days. So if it runs out and you would like to go and do it again, just go make yourself another live ID because you cannot make a second trial on the same live ID, guys. Make yourself a second fake live ID. Just repeat the whole procedure and there you go. You've got another 30 days you guys can go and play with. Alright, so I really hope that helps you guys. For those of you that would like to go and do some of the stuff practically. Okay, so now that I've got that out of the way, let's move on with our theory here. So still on the topic of different cloud services, here I've got a little bit of a list for you guys to show you exactly how much control you have and how much control you don't have when it comes to those three forms of public cloud. So way on the left, dark green or whatever you want to go and call that, you can see that's on premises. That means it's physically on your property at your company or your office. Everything would be your problem, your responsibility. So that could probably be private cloud, could also just be your traditional on-premises environment, potato. So whether you're using a normal old school environment or whether you actually have a private cloud, either way, 100% your responsibility. That's both a good thing and a bad thing. Now, if you look at the right-hand side, that's the public cloud side of things. Now, depending on which one you use, you'll have a lot of control or not so much control. So looking at the one there on the left, infrastructure as a service. There you've got the most control. The example I gave you guys earlier was a virtual machine. So there you can still actually go and choose the operating system of the virtual machine. You can go and choose how much RAM it has, how many hard drives it has, how big the hard drives are. So you cannot physically touch the hardware. No, you can't do that. But you can go and choose the actual operating system and all that. So if you look at this one here on the left, and you look at the bottom there, it says storage. Storage is in blue because you cannot physically access the storage. But you can go and choose how much. Networking wise, you can go and make something that is known as virtual switches, which allows you to go and connect your virtual machines to one another in the cloud. So in that aspect, yes, you've got control, but you cannot physically go and touch the network cables. You cannot physically go and touch the switches and the routers, that kind of stuff. Compute wise, you cannot physically touch the RAM chips and the CPU and the motherboards and the hard drives and stuff, but digitally speaking, you can go and choose them. So I would actually say compute should actually be both green and blue, should be like a 50-50 kind of deal there. So you can go and choose what the specs are. Virtual machine wise, you've got 100% control there. You can go and choose the operating system and all the specs. Operating system, you've got control. Everything after that, you've got control. If you look at the right hand side there at platform as a service, you can see you've got drastically less access, less control. And then obviously way on the right at software as a service, you've got even less control there. Only the actual product itself, the actual program. Now that sounds like you've got little to no control, but that's actually not the case. If you were to actually go and use some of these softwares, I'm not talking about your Word and Excel like I showed you guys earlier, you'll find a lot of them, you actually still have a lot of control. And you can still do a lot of configuration on those guys. Let's take a bit of a look at differentiating between various IT funding models. So, cloud computing changes not only how and where a business uses computing systems, it also changes the funding model, the costs associated with computing. So in the old days, everything would be on premises at the office, and all of your users would come into the office and do stuff at the office. So there was a certain way of funding that. I mean, in the old days, you had to go and physically buy a server, physically build a server, do this, do that. Nowadays, everything being in the cloud and with people not necessarily working at the office, the whole funding model has completely changed. So that brings us to these 2 points. The first of which is capital expenditures and operating expenditures. So to help elaborate on this, I've got a nice little table here for you guys. On the left, it shows us on-premises computing costs, what you would normally have in the old school days, although some of you guys might still be experiencing this to a certain degree. And on the right-hand side, we've got cloud computing costs. Now, generally in these Microsoft Cloud courses, Microsoft would like for you to believe that everything is sunshine and rainbows. Everything in the cloud is going to be faster, better, more reliable, and cheaper. Yeah, for the most part, I suppose that's true, but it's not always going to be completely true. For example, there's going to be cases where if you move something into the cloud, it might in fact actually cost you more. Now, that's not what the course is about. That's just me adding a little bit extra there for you guys, just so that you know. Sometimes it's not always sunshine and rainbow. So yes, most of the time it is in fact more reliable, better, cheaper, and all that. But there's certain scenarios where you might actually end up paying more. Anyway, looking at our table here, on the left there, they've got server costs. So what they mean by that is traditionally, if you had all of your stuff on premises, you would have to go and buy or build physical servers. Now, you might argue with me and say, hey, but you've got virtual servers. Okay, cool, but where are you hosting those virtual servers? You need a server, at least one physical server, to host those virtual servers for you. So you're still going to have server costs, here's what I'm saying. So these servers are very expensive. Sometimes they can cost you millions. And on average, the average company would go and replace these servers or upgrade these servers after about 3 or 5 years. Now, granted, there are companies that does this quicker, way before 3 years. Some of them take longer than 5 years, but generally the norm is about 3, 5 years. Then they're considered outdated, these servers. And in that time, in that 3 to 5 year period, when you're using those servers, they're going to break down. Just like a car or anything else in life, certain things are going to break down. Nothing lasts forever. So ever so often you might find that the server might need a new RAM chip. Here or there something needs a new hard drive. This breaks, that breaks. So you're going to need to replace parts. Now whether you decide to go and keep them on premises and do it yourself, or whether you get someone else to come out and do it for you, an SLA agreement in some cases, either way it's going to cost you a heap of money. So now if you're going to move your stuff into the cloud, if you look there on the right hand side, it says leasing a cloud-based server. So the cloud, you don't have to go and build or buy a server. You don't have to worry about maintaining that server. Nope. It's all someone else's problem. It's all Microsoft's problem now. So that is a huge benefit in my books. And in the old days, I'm saying old days, but this was actually not too long ago, if you had a physical server, and let's say for argument's sake, you did have to go and upgrade this after 5 years or 10 years or whenever you decide to go and do it, it's such an inconvenience to go and plan for that. It takes weeks, sometimes months of planning and testing and all of that to just go and upgrade from one server to another one physically. And if you need to go and digitally upgrade from something, let's say you need to go and upgrade from server 2016 to server 2019 or 2022. That also takes months and weeks of planning and testing and all that. So whether it be physical or digital, it's gonna be a huge thorn on your side, is what it's going to be. It's very inconvenient. So now if it's in the cloud, you always have the latest of the latest, you always have the best of the best, and you don't have to go through that inconvenience of having to go and build a server and replace a server and upgrade the Windows operating system. None of that is your problem. Well, I'm actually mentioning benefits not even on this list. No, once again, Microsoft's not paying me to say this. I just state the facts as they are. Now, if you look there on the left, they say storage costs. So that's something we traditionally would struggle with a lot on premises. In the cloud, I would not say that's going to fall away. You're still going to have storage costs, but the benefit in the cloud is you only pay for what you use. So on premises, if I go and buy myself, let's say 10 terabytes of storage, you're going to pay for 10 terabytes of storage, whether you use it or not. In a cloud, if you only need a terabyte, then you only pay for a terabyte, as long as you are using full of it. If you don't use the full terabyte, you're only going to pay for what you actually use. So that's a huge benefit. And that applies to everything in the cloud. If you don't use something, whether it be hard drive space, whether it be RAM that's available, you don't pay for it. Also on the left there, we've got network costs. Now, once again, I'm not going to agree that it's going to fall away completely. So I sometimes somewhat disagree with what Microsoft says here. So this is what Microsoft actually says. This is the actual list from Microsoft. So Microsoft said network costs. Yeah, well, I suppose it'll be cheaper, but it's not going to fall away. I mean, at the end of the day, the stuff is in the cloud, which means it's online. And you and your users or your customers or clients will still need to access this, which means they need internet. And they need some sort of network, whether it be at home, whether it be at the office, they're going to need a network. So these people are going to be working from home and they don't have internet access at home. Some companies provide their users with internet access at home. They'll give them a dongle or they'll have fiber installed at their homes. Either way, that could cost you money. If these folks are working at the office, you might need to make sure that there's a decent and fast enough and stable enough internet connection there to handle all of that stuff. So it's not going to fall away. Backup and archive costs also not going to fall completely away, but it is drastically reduced. With an on-premises environment, backups and archiving is completely you and your responsibility. You need to go and do it. You're going to carry the costs and all of that. When a cloud, depending on what kind of cloud we're talking about here, because we did mention to you guys, you get different kinds of cloud. But generally, cloud, some of these kinds of cloud, it's completely Microsoft's problem. Other times, it's just partially their problem. Either way, the workload's going to be a lot lighter or just somewhat lighter, but it's going to be better for you. So you don't have to worry about doing these backups and paying for these backups. Nope. Then you've got business continuity and disaster recovery costs. So how quickly can you be back up and running? Or will you be offline at all? And what is it going to cost you to be able to get these benefits? Now, on premises, we could get that, and quite often the average medium to large size company would have that, but it would cost them an arm and a leg to actually be able to do that. And you also going to obviously need a great level of skill to be able to do that. Now, in a cloud, you just literally go and choose those options. Quite often, you actually have them by default. I mean, they give you a 99.9% uptime guarantee of the cloud platforms. And depending on what high availability and fault tolerant options you choose, you can actually get yourself up to a 99.95% uptime guarantee, if not higher. It all depends on what options you go and choose. Bearing in mind, obviously, the more you choose, the more you pay, like with anything in life. If you look there on the left, they say data center infrastructure costs. Now, that might not be applicable to everybody, but generally speaking, data centers are very, very expensive. So much so, you might have to go and sell a sibling to be able to afford one of these. Yes, that expensive. Now, if it's in the cloud, you don't have to worry about that because you're just leasing space on these data centers and they're rendering it back to you for a fee. The only time you might have a data center infrastructure cost involved is if we're talking about private cloud. You'd remember with private cloud, everything is still in a data center near you. This could be your data center or it could be with a provider, maybe like an ISP company, and they sell space on that data center. But generally, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So Microsoft should probably go and specify whether they're referring to public cloud here or private cloud. But assuming this is public cloud, which I think it is, data center cost is going to pretty much completely fall away if you look at public cloud. Now, and lastly, there on the left, we've got technical personnel. Microsoft says you're going to need a lot less staff members to be able to run all of this. Now, that's both a benefit as well as a drawback, in my personal opinion, depending on how you look at it. So, traditionally, if you had to have, let's say, I'm going to give you guys a round number. Let's say you had to have 100 IT people at your company to run everything and make everything work. Everything in the engine room needs to work, and to be able to do that, you maybe need 100 people to get everything done. Now, with everything moving into the cloud and with Microsoft doing so much for you and of so much of this stuff being automated, Microsoft says you don't need 100 people anymore. You can get away with, let's say, 20 or 30 people. I'm just spitballing numbers here. The point is it's less people. Now, that might sound like a good thing because you think, wow, less people, we're going to save a lot of money. But it also depends on how you look at this. This also means a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. So that's my perspective on this. So, I mean, I'm all for automation and, the future and all that. That's all cool and well. But it's not very cool when people start losing their jobs. Now, with me being in the training industry, I can honestly tell you guys, I've had a lot of people come to me because they were about to lose their jobs, and their company said to them, we're moving to the cloud, and unless you upskill into the cloud, you're going to lose your job. So the current people that were doing stuff on premises, they were no longer needed. They were basically becoming redundant, and they either had to go and upskill into the cloud or risk being let go. Not so nice. Some of the people would just be let go regardless because there was just no need for that many people. So I've seen it firsthand. It's not a nice sight, guys. Now, looking at the right hand side there, you can go and lease software and customize features. And they've got so freaking many packages, it's not even funny, guys. You'll see once we get to the subscriptions. There's so freaking many packages you can go and choose from. There's literally a package for everyone and every company in every situation. You're just going to go and browse until you find the one that meets your unique criteria, your unique needs for your company. You go and choose that, and there you go. So you don't have to go and install this stuff or run this stuff on your infrastructure. It's all running in the cloud. It's leased back to you for a monthly fee. So that would be an example of software as a service. And depending on whether you use infrastructure or some of these other things, it might also be an example of platform or infrastructure as a service. Lastly, there on the right, they say scaled charges based on usage, demand instead of fixed hardware or capacity. So that's pretty much what I've said earlier. I've been saying it all along. You only pay for what you use. So if I, for example, have a virtual machine running on Microsoft Azure, if I were to go and turn that little bugger off, guess what? I'm not paying for it. Now, whether this be a virtual machine, a website, or whatever in the cloud, if demand increases for resources, Microsoft can automatically increase your resources. Yes, they can automatically increase it for you. Now, obviously, if they're going to give you more resources, you're going to be paying more for that. Now, just as they can automatically increase resources for you as demand increases, they can also automatically decrease your resources as demand goes down. And if they decrease the resources, that means they're saving you money. This all happens automatically. Now, in case you're wondering about getting a surprise in the mail, because if I just said Microsoft can just go and randomly increase your resources as needed, what if you're sleeping during the middle of the night and now a lot of people jump onto something like a website? We can say this is a website. But by word of mouth, one guy told another guy, that told another guy, that told another guy, that told Mary Joe, that told this guy and that guy. Now everybody and his uncle and his friend is jumping on your website with a sudden surge in traffic. And now Microsoft sees this, so they go and increase the resources to basically cope with the load. You're sleeping, none the wiser. And before you know it, you're going to get a huge surprise in the mail that says you owe us this amount, which is very, very expensive potentially. Now, if you are scared of that happening, you can go and specify a limit or a cap of sorts. You can go and specify this in your currency. You can tell them I'm willing to spend this much in, let's say, dollars, if that's your currency. Or you can go and say, okay, if this is a website, do not exceed this much in RAM or this much in CPU power or this much in, physical resource. You can go and specify limits. So they're not unreasonable people. You can go and make arrangements with these folks. Now, what I've seen, what's quite nice is if you are about to reach that limit or that cap of yours, whether it be a resource amount or a monetary amount you specified, Microsoft actually contacts you. Heck, this could be in the middle of the night. And if your server, if this is a virtual machine for argument's sake that's about to reach its limit, they will wake you up and say, hey, my bra, are you aware your server's running at 95% on RAM usage and it's about to crash? Would you like us to increase your RAM for you? Now that's pretty nifty. In the beginning, they might start off a subtle email, and the more urgent it becomes, they'll start calling you, and this might be an ungodly hours. You never know. Depending on what time of day it is, you'll find it's a different accent that's going to be calling you. It might be an American, it might be someone from India. They've got, people all over the world, and depending on what time of day it is, a different person is going to be calling you, and they're going to inform you of what's happening, and they're going to ask you, what would you like to do about it? Now, I think that's pretty good service, guys. Alrighty, folks, that brings us to the end of the first module in this course, and I'm still not 100% sure which one is going to take the longest, but my guess would be the first module is probably going to be one of the shortest and the quickest modules. The first module doesn't have any subsections or main sections, it just has those topics we've covered. And now here we are moving into module 2, which is Microsoft 365 core services and concepts. Now, from this point forward, the modules could possibly have main sections. I'll list them as we progress through the modules. And these main sections will have subsections in them. So it's going to get a lot longer and a lot more detail going from this point forward. All right, let's jump into module 2 here. The first main section in this module is called What is Microsoft 365? And you'd remember I did partially elaborate on this a few minutes ago. Now, within this main section, let's start off with how Microsoft 365 drives productivity in the cloud. With all of this being a cloud platform, you can imagine there are many ways Microsoft 365 drives productivity in the cloud. The first thing we can talk about is the fact that it allows you and your users to be more productive from anywhere in the world. I mean, it is cloud after all, right? And the cloud can be accessed from anywhere pretty much. As long as you have a device of sorts and an internet connection, you're all set. Since this is all in the cloud, it enables you and your team to collaborate together from anywhere in the world, regardless of where each person may be. That's pretty much where everyone and everything is heading, if you think about it. All of your users can now do their work regardless of whether they are physically at the office, on the go somewhere remote, or just working from home. Either way, regardless of where you and your users are, you can now always collaborate with each other with ease. The idea Microsoft had here is for you and users to feel closer even though you may not be. This can be through chat, voice, and video. You can create content with built in Office apps and use the power of artificial intelligence to make all of your work even better. You can use the cool integrated tools the platform has to simplify work and automate manual processes, which will give you more time to focus on other things that matter most to you. Microsoft has also made it easy for us to transition from computer to mobile devices with innovative mobile apps enabling you to stay productive on the go. I mean, heck, even I myself make use of some of these. Well, actually, quite a lot of them. Some of the ones I use the most often is, for example, the Microsoft Teams app that you can go and put on your phone. That also works on tablets. And I also like to go and make use of the Outlook app. So you can get these in the Play Store if you're using Android. If you're not using Android, they're also available on quite a lot of the other stores. Now, a second thing we can talk about with regards to Microsoft 365 driving productivity in the cloud is the security aspect. The platform secures your organization with technology you can trust through Microsoft 365. If you make use of the platform, it will in most cases elevate and modernize your security. You'll basically have the latest of the latest and the best of the best, since it's in the cloud after all. That's another benefit of using the cloud in general, mind you. The fact that you'll always have the latest of the latest and the best of the best. And also that added benefit of you not having to go and worry about migrating and upgrading the stuff on premises. I mean, that used to be such a tedious task. Now, the platform will also allow you to manage risk a lot better with the vast collection of tools, monitors, and whatnot that they have there. There is so freaking many kinds of policies you can go and configure on 365. It's insane. Now, don't stress, they are luckily very easy to learn and very easy to configure as needed. You have to remember here, if they make the platform difficult to use, basically unuser friendly, if you want to call it that, then nobody would use it. And if nobody uses it, that means nobody's going to buy it. And that in turn means Microsoft makes no money. So it always comes back down to money. Money, money, money. They want us to use their platforms, and for that to happen, we have to find them user friendly and usable. So, with that in mind, Microsoft is actively working to keep the platforms as easy to understand and as easy to use as possible. So, getting back to the security aspect topic here, the amount of benefit you get is way too many for me to mention here, but just to list a few, you can ensure that only the right users have access to resources by, for example, using Azure's Active Directory, which is a cloud version of Active Directory. I think you could have guessed that much. You could make use of things like multi-factor authentication, MFA for short, in other words. You can make use of biometrics, which is something I really find useful to keep hackers out. Heck, folks, the list of security features and functions you get on 365 is as long as the slip my wife brings home when she goes out shopping with my credit card. It's very long, in case you're wondering. Microsoft 365 also drives productivity by giving one cost effective solution. What they mean by this is instead of you or a company having to go out and buy numerous platforms for multiple capabilities, now you or the company can get all you need in one consolidated plan. I have to say, I love convenience, and this is a massive example of convenience to make your life easier. You can also save on automation and process improvements through workflows, dashboards, and AI. Heck, since all of this is in the cloud, you can also reduce hard costs like real estate and travel, since your users are now going to be working from anywhere, pretty much their homes in most cases. All right, and then let's discuss how Microsoft 365 enables hybrid and flexible work strategies. I'm sure all of you folks have seen by now that the pandemic has changed our lives forever in many ways. One of the things that has changed about our lives is that so many companies have now adopted a hybrid working strategy where staff no longer work just at the office. Instead, a lot of staff are now working from all over, mainly their homes in most cases. Almost anything can be done remotely and virtually these days, more than we ever thought possible. Hybrid and flexible work is here to stay, and organizations are trying to navigate this new way of operating. Changes need to be made to support workers that are fully remote, to support those that are still choosing to go into the office, and then, of course, to support those that remain on site, like the frontline workers that don't really have a choice in the matter. Microsoft 365 has the capabilities to empower your organization to meet the diverse needs of your workers, giving them the ability to work either on site or remotely, because now there's going to be two choices these days. For example, workers can stay connected from anywhere in the world at any time. Your workers are able to access cloud based services and data in the Microsoft 365 subscription. Your workers are also able to access organizational resources such as those offered by on premises application data centers. Microsoft 365 also gives us secure sign ins with multi factor authentication and built in security features of Microsoft 365 and Windows Protect against malware, malicious attacks, and data loss. Microsoft 365 gives you the ability to manage your hybrid workers' devices from the cloud with security settings, allowed apps, and to require compliance with system health. This was a real problem for a lot of companies at the beginning of the pandemic because a lot of them obviously didn't plan for the pandemic. I mean, who can plan for something crazy like that? Now, suddenly they were sitting in a situation with people having to work from home or somewhere remote, and they had no way of managing these users and managing their devices. Quite a pickle to find yourself in. Luckily, the good news is there are many tools out there you can go and make use of, and Microsoft 365 is one of the platforms out there with some of those tools to your disposal. With people working from home, there is a whole new list of problems that arises, like for example, security. The security at these users' homes is in most cases not nearly as good as what you would have at the office. With things like compliance policies, you can force these devices to meet certain requirements before they can even access company resources. Pretty cool, right? A great way of ensuring your company resources are secure, if you ask me. With Microsoft 365, you can be just as collaborative and productive as on premises in a highly collaborative way with things like online meetings, chat sessions, and push to talk communication in Teams. You can use shared workspaces for cloud based file storage, which you can access anywhere in the globe with real time collaboration with SharePoint and OneDrive. You can make use of shared tasks and workflows to divide up the work and get things done quicker and easier as well. If you folks ever decide to do one of the other more advanced Microsoft 365 courses, you'll see the list of things 365 provides is much longer in those courses. And yet, those lists still don't nearly list and cover everything. A lot of the cool goodies and toys you'll discover yourself along the way as you obviously start playing over the platform and just go and explore in general. I really do encourage you folks to go and play on the platform, go make yourself a trial, and go and try things out for yourself. At the end of the day, that's the best way you can learn, is just to go and explore. It's better to test things out in a safe environment instead of trying stuff out at the office in that environment. If you make a boo boo there, it could end up very badly. Anyway, folks, let's talk about that topic I briefly mentioned in Module 1 earlier, which is the difference between Office 365, Microsoft 365, and Windows 365, because there seems to be a lot of confusion around these. Like I said earlier in Module 1, a lot of people are under the impression that Office 365 and Microsoft 365 are the same thing. It's both yes and no to that. About 10 years ago, Microsoft introduced Office 365. You can say this was basically the first out of the lot. Office 365 is the software as a service which you're already familiar with, and you probably already used it once or twice since it came out, a very, very long time ago. So the chances are you've probably used it somewhere along the line. Office 365 evolved from Microsoft's Business Productivity Online Suite, BPOS for short. Office 365 was designed originally to bring together its existing online products to an ever up-to-date cloud service. I mean, the whole world was changing to cloud at that point in time, and like usual, Microsoft wanted a piece of the action. It combined the core productivity apps such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook, etc., and the collaboration and communication tools such as Exchange, SharePoint, in Skype for Business, and now more recently things like Microsoft Teams, of course. Office 365 was a way to grow and expand on communication and collaboration services. So they had it, but they wanted to grow and they wanted to expand that. First, Microsoft was aiming at corporate users. That was their main audience way in the beginning. Eventually, they released more updated versions of Office 365 subscriptions, which were aiming at different size businesses: small, medium, large, consumers, and students. I mean, the list goes on. These new versions included new features such as OneDrive. Now, over the last several years, Microsoft Cloud productivity services have grown a lot and well beyond what people traditionally think of as Office. And because of this massive growth and expansion on services, the name has changed to, drumroll, Microsoft 365 to reflect the extensions of features and benefits beyond the core Office 365 products and services. So there you have it. The name was changed from Office 365 to Microsoft 365. So it's actually the same thing, but Microsoft 365 obviously has way, way more in it. And that's why they changed the name. So Microsoft 365 is a superset of Office 365, as it includes everything you know in Office 365 and more, such as Windows, Teams, and other cloud-based security and device management products and services. Microsoft 365 is designed to help people and businesses achieve more with innovative apps, intelligent cloud services, and world-class security. Like Office 365, Microsoft 365 is still a subscription service, making sure you always have the most up-to-date modern productivity and collaboration tools. Okay, so we know Office 365 was first, and then eventually it got renamed to Microsoft 365 because of all the extra new goodies and toys that was added. Now, where does Windows 365 fit into all of this? And what is it? Alright, so first of all, folks, you're all probably already familiar with a normal Windows operating system. The most current versions being obviously Windows 10 and Windows 11. Now, with Windows 365, this isn't exactly an operating system per se. It's not installed on your PC like your normal Windows. Windows 365 is a subscription service for organizations that allows you to create and run PCs remotely. It's called a cloud PC. This means Windows 365 securely streams your personalized Windows desktop, apps, settings, and content from the cloud to any device. You can basically say you or the user's computer is now virtual and, well, in the cloud. You or the user can now go to any computer in the world that has internet access and Then you or this user can, well, pretty much access this cloud PC over the internet. As simple as that. The PC you use to access this cloud PC can be very old, it can be very slow even. The specs of that PC honestly doesn't really matter since, well, everything is happening somewhere else and it's technically just displaying onto your screen. Everything is happening somewhere else. That's the key here. It's pretty much the same as infrastructure as a service if you think about it. An example of infrastructure as a service would be a virtual machine running in a cloud, if you remember what I explained in Module 1. Now, going on that and comparing that to this, you'll notice it's very much the same in some ways, except these cloud PCs you get with Windows 365 come with that subscription. I suppose it's going to come down to which one you prefer to use, and I suppose which one better suits your unique needs and your unique requirements. Alrighty, folks, let's take a look at some of the subscription options that Microsoft 365 offers us. Now, what I'm about to list is basically what you can call the main categories for various subscriptions. I want to point out though that within these main categories, you do in fact get various types of licenses and subscriptions. I suppose you can call them plans. I think Microsoft calls them plans, subscription plans. Anyway, so what are these main categories of subscriptions that Microsoft 365 offers? The first out of the lot is Microsoft 365 Home. You could probably guess what it was intended for by looking at its name. I mean, you got to give it to Microsoft in their names. With all of these main categories, you'll actually be able to guess what they're for by just looking at the names I list. So, with Microsoft 365 Home subscriptions, the first thing I want to point out to you folks is it comes out with two plans. One is called Personal, the other is called Family. The names for these plans has also somewhat changed over the years. It used to be called Personal and Home, the two plans. Now it's called Personal and Family. So just like what we said earlier where the name changed from Office 365 to Microsoft 365 because of the extra goodies and stuff they added, the same happened here with these plans in April 2020. Microsoft went and added a bunch of extra goodies to these two plans, and thus the name changed to represent that change. Now, folks, even though these plans are currently called Family and Personal, the names could change again at any point in time, and probably will, knowing Microsoft. As soon as they go and add new features and functionality to them, you can probably expect the name to change again. When that might be, nobody knows. It's anyone's guess. Now, with cloud, everything is changing at a massive rate, and it's sometimes very hard to keep up with all of these changes. So, yeah, that is unfortunately a thing about the cloud, guys. Anyway, let's not worry about that for now. Instead, let me show you folks these two plans on Microsoft's website for home. I'm going to switch over to a web browser here and go to Microsoft's website.
A few moments later.
And here we are, folks. As you can see, we're on www.microsoft.com. That's Microsoft's website. And this is now for the home category of Microsoft 365 subscriptions. And if you check here on the right, we've got Microsoft 365 Family, and we've got Microsoft 365 Personal. So those are the two available plans in the Microsoft 365 Home category. If you look at the other categories, which we're going to do in just a moment, you'll find there are a lot more plans available on those sections. You can see the family one is obviously a little bit more expensive. It's about $99.9. Let's say $100 if we're working in American currency here. Gives you a lot more benefits though, as compared to the personal one, which is intended for one person. So it's intended for one person, gives you 1 TB of storage, and that's pretty much it. As compared to the family one, which is intended for 6 people, gives you 6 TB. So it's still the same amount of storage per person, except it's now for 6 people. Plus you get a bunch of extra security features. So it doesn't give you that many benefits per se. At the end of the day, this is for home use, and at home we don't normally need that much or use that much. If you look at the other main categories, which we're going to look at in just a moment, you'll find the options you've got available, the goodies and the toys and all that is a lot more. So speaking of which, let's go back to that list of ours. Okay, so we've just covered Microsoft 365 Home. We've established there is two packages available in Microsoft 365 Home, namely Microsoft 365 Personal and Microsoft 365 Family. Now, the second category we have here is Microsoft 365 Education. Like I said before with the first category, you can probably guess what this one is used for as well by, well, looking at its name. So this one is available for education institutions. It's very affordable, and some of the options they have are even in fact completely free if you're a student or an educator yourself. The free ones obviously won't have all the bells and the whistles, but they do, however, still have pretty reasonable amount of goodies available. The student or teacher will be able to access a lot of tools like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. via a web browser. So that would be software as a service. They have access to software as a service versions of apps. I think like with the home category, let's show you folks the plans they have available on their website. Let me switch back to the browser for you guys.
A few moments later.
Okay, and then like before, here we are again on the website. This time, this is now for the 365 education section. If you look here, you can see it says for students and for teachers, but it's pretty much the same thing. The one is just price differences. You can see that the price just changes if I click on a different one there. So if you look here, it actually says it's for free. There is one you can go and choose on the left there, which is actually for free. And the same here on the teacher side. It is for free. Now, looking at the free one, it's obviously not going to have everything you have available compared to the one that you pay for, but it's still a pretty reasonable amount of thingies that you've got access to. I mean, look at that. You've got Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote. Services, check it out. You've got OneDrive, Teams, SharePoint. You've got all of this, and it is for free, folks. So I wonder how many people have actually tried to abuse this and misuse this. Now, like with most things in life, if you're going to go and pay for something, you're obviously going to get a little bit extra. So you can see they mention you get a little extra goodies here at the bottom. You can use this on up to 5 PCs. You can actually go and install it locally onto the machine, which you could not do with the previous version. That is very important for the exam, guys. So that is not just a topic here with the licenses. There's a question in the Microsoft MS-900 exam. They're going to ask you guys up to how many devices can you install Office on locally. Normally this is referred to as the Pro Plus version. So not something we need to worry about just now. That will probably be discussed later in this course. So assuming your license has the ability for you to install Office locally onto your device, up to how many devices can you do this on? The answer to that is 5 devices. It's not limited to computers. This could be Macs, it could be phones, it could be tablets, but the limit is 5. Another question they'll ask you, which is not the actual topic here at hand, is they'll ask you how long can a device go without connecting to the internet? And that is normally about 30 days. Now that sounds somewhat confusing, but what they mean by that is if you happen to have 1 to 5 devices that you've installed Office on, each of these devices that now has Office installed, they need to connect back to the internet at least once within 30 days. If they don't do that, Microsoft says the functionality of your Office is going to be so severely reduced to the point where it's basically useless. I've seen it's pretty much useless at that point in time. So that is because you had people in the past that will go and abuse this benefit of Microsoft. They will go and install us on 5 devices, and then one or more of these 5 devices they'll just never connect to the internet. And then they'll go and install Office on a 6th device, a 7th device, a 8th device, and basically Microsoft will be none the wiser. Now Microsoft's obviously caught on of this, and they said, we see what you guys are doing here. So each of these 5 devices, assuming it's up to 5 of course, they have to connect to the internet at least once within 30 days. That's also a question in the exam. So they're going to give you a week, 2 weeks, 30 days, 60 days. The answer you're looking for is 30 days, guys. And up to how many devices can I install Office on? 5. Now, that's assuming your license allows it, but that's not the question here. They just want to know up to how many devices. That's the question. Straightforward. And that number is 5, guys. Anyway, let's move back to that list of ours again. So you can see here's the different kinds of license we've got available for the education section. Moving back to our list. Okay, and then folks, the next subscription category on the list here would be Microsoft 365 for Business. Now, even though it says business in the name there, this is actually more designed for small to medium-sized organizations and not for large enterprises and such. So, what do we get with the business version? It offers the full set of Office 365 productivity tools and includes security and device management features. Like with the previous two listed items here, let's show you folks the plans available on Microsoft's website. So let me switch over.
A few moments later.
And here we are. Now, before we jump into it, I would just like to point out that this is in US dollars. So, depending on your country, it's obviously going to show your currency there. So, depending on what country you're accessing this from, unless you're using some sort of VPN connection, it's going to show your currency there, and these values will obviously change somewhat. It's not going to cost you more or less the same, it's just the actual numbers here is going to change. Now, getting back to the topic at hand here, guys, here we've got Microsoft 365 Business Basic, Business Standard, Business Premium, and Apps for Business. You can see they obviously have different prices, and that obviously is reflected with what you actually get here at the bottom as well. Kind of looks like a lot of things online. Whenever you want to go and buy something, normally the more expensive ones gives you more goodies, and you normally have like a table of sorts, pretty much like this, which has got tick marks. And normally, the more tick marks there is, the more it's going to cost you. I think one of the things I tend to see this on is VPN connections. So, with most VPN providers, you will find there's normally a list like this. Well, not maybe with all of them, but with most of them, there's a list like this where they show you the difference between their various packages. Most of these VPN providers will have a package of some sort, and normally they'll have a table of sorts like this where they'll show you the different packages they've got available. And obviously, the more expensive ones are the ones that's just way better in general. They're all good. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're all good. You should definitely go and make use of a VPN connection. But the more expensive ones are ultimately the ones you really want to go and get yourself if you can afford it. If you can't, well, there's no shame in that. Get yourself the cheaper one. At the end of the day, as long as you're using a VPN connection, that is what matters here because you're going to be using an encrypted connection. Anyway, folks, so as you can see, there are the various packages that's available. You're welcome to go and check these packages out them for yourself. So all you can do is just go to a search engine of your choice, like Google, for example, and you just go and type in Microsoft 365 Home Plans, Microsoft 365 Business or Education Plans, or whatever package you're looking for, and they will list them all for you in your respective currency. As easy as that. All right, let's go back to that list of mine. Now, since we just spoke of the topic of VPN, and also since it's such a very important security aspect, I personally feel you folks should know about, and if at all possible, you should make use of. Let me give you guys a very quick overview of what a VPN is. So, for the folks that don't know what this is already, VPN is short for Virtual Private Network, and it's an encrypted remote connection with many security benefits. Security is not the only benefit you get from using a VPN connection though. So when you use a VPN connection, you're basically digitally teleporting yourself somewhere you're not. So physically, you might be still sitting at home or the office with your physical device like a laptop, but digitally speaking, you're now actually somewhere else in the world. This means people can't track you online. It also means you can pretend to be somewhere in the world where you're not actually physically at. This is very useful if you'd like to access resources that are only available in certain locations, like certain countries, for example. Let's say you want to watch something on a streaming platform online, but this something you want to watch is not available in your specific country. With NordVPN, you can just choose any of their many VPN destinations all over the world, one where there's something you're trying to watch is available. Once you choose that location on your NordVPN, it's as if you are there and you'll be able to now watch whatever it was that you were previously unable to do. Now, you probably heard me talk about security earlier, and that's one of my personal favorite benefits of using NordVPN and why I would recommend you use it. The remote connection is an encrypted connection, so anyone in between, in the middle, won't be able to see or track what you're doing. This is beneficial in so many ways, guys. For example, if you're working at home or the office, even, and the info you're working on is online, and it's also very sensitive in nature, you might be concerned about someone trying to capture that sensitive information over the network. Now, if you're using an encrypted NordVPN connection, anyone trying to see or track what you're doing will be unable to do so now. This also comes in handy for when you're doing shopping online or doing your banking online. When you don't use a VPN connection, It's very easy for anyone to intercept your digital traffic and see exactly what you're doing online. When they do that, they can get a hold of sensitive information like your banking details or login details to any website or any platform. A drawback to using a VPN connection for most people would probably be the fact that their VPN connections are sometimes slow. One of the many reasons I'd recommend folks use NordVPN is because it's not slow at all. It's in fact amazingly fast, and it's the fastest compared to all other well known VPN providers. Heck, they are so confident about it, they clearly show it to you on their website. So they do speed comparisons there compared to other well known VPN providers. And you can actually go and check what the speeds there are. And I believe NordVPN is about 3 times faster than the closest competitor, which is just insane. Anyway, folks, I'm getting slightly off topic here, but I really feel strong about security and I wouldn't recommend something to my viewers unless I felt it was very important. If you're interested in getting yourself NordVPN or if you just want to go and check them out on their website for yourself, please use the link in the video description down below or just go check the comment that I've pinned in the comment section. Full disclosure though, if you go and use my link in the video description down below, I do get a portion of the proceeds should you go and buy something, so you'll be helping me out by using my link. Alright, getting back to the 365 subscriptions. The next one we have on the list is Microsoft 365 Enterprise. This is the one I personally have worked with the most since Office 365 got released. Most of my clients normally had subscriptions from this category since most of my clients were large organizations. Although, come to think of it, I also had many small to medium sized companies that also had enterprise subscriptions. It's just generally the main type of subscription most companies tend to go for. They are, however, also generally more expensive than most other types of subscriptions, but that in turn is because you get a lot more. So, like before, let's show you folks the available subscriptions in the enterprise section category.
A few moments later.
Like usual, here we are on the Microsoft website. This time it's for the enterprise subscriptions. So the main three I've worked with my clients is E1, E3, and E5. If I have to tell you guys which one I've worked with the most, it'll probably be the enterprise E3 one. So we normally call it enterprise E3, not just E3. So yeah, I had many companies that had these other licenses as well, but I would say that was the main one most of my clients used when I was still in the field. I had some companies use E5, that's more for the engineers and technicians themselves because it gives you extra things like advanced analytics and all kinds of stuff like that. The average Joe doesn't need advanced analytics. That will be us, the engineers and technicians and IT staff that needs that, so we can keep an eye on the users and see what the heck they're up to. But the average Joe, they don't need E5. The only times I've seen people of E5 is if the company happens to get a lot of E5 licenses for free, or they get them at a massive discounted rate because they happen to be a very massive Microsoft partner, or almost everything in their company and their environment is Microsoft, so they get these at a massively reduced rate. And if you've got them, why not use them then? But if they have to actually go and pay normal prices for this stuff and they don't really get a reduced rate, you'd find the average company would only get an E5 for technical staff if they absolutely need to. The average Joe at most will normally have something like an E3 or lower, depending on what their unique needs and requirements is. I personally found that most people would normally use an E3. Alright, so now you've got a better idea as to what kind of subscriptions is available on Enterprise. Don't worry, they're not going to ask you about these ones specifically. From an exam point of view, you can expect them to maybe ask you questions about between home, education, for business, and enterprise. In general, like that. It's going to be very vague, kind of like a hit and run scenario. They're not really going to worry too much about detailed subscriptions like an enterprise E3 or an enterprise E5 because that's going a little too deep for this specific course. And they do take into account that people doing this course are probably brand new to 365 and you probably just started doing this stuff, so they can't expect you to know each and every license of each and every benefit. That's just nuts. Anyway, folks, let's go back to that list. Okay, folks, let's take a bit of a look at productivity solutions in Microsoft 365. We'll start things off with core productivity tools in Microsoft 365. So, benefits of using the core productivity tools in Microsoft 365 would be things like having the ability to go and collaborate from anywhere in the world. It really doesn't matter where you, the users, the clients, the customers are. As long as you've got an internet connection, and as long as you've got some sort of device, this doesn't even have to be a laptop or a desktop, it could be a phone or a tablet, it could be anything these days. As long as you've got an internet connection, as long as you've got a device, you can collaborate from anywhere in the world. And one of the tools you'll be using for that most often, and it works really, really well, is Microsoft Teams. This is obviously the replacement for Skype for Business. You can also create content in real time by using Microsoft's 365 apps. You can also create a cohesive file sharing experience by using Microsoft OneDrive. So in OneDrive, you have the ability to go and choose who can access certain documents or files that's in OneDrive. You can go and limit it so that only people who within your organization go and access these files. You can go and configure it in such a manner so that only certain people with the link can go and access these resources. In that case, it doesn't matter if they're in your company or not. If they don't have the link, they can access the resources. Just be aware the default setting is in fact to allow anyone with a link to be able to access the resource. So just make absolutely sure your file sharing permissions is configured correctly when you go and use OneDrive. But excluding that fact, OneDrive is a great platform to go and make use of within and external outside your company. You can go and engage and inform your organization by making use of something like Microsoft SharePoint platform. This would obviously be the online version of SharePoint, the cloud version. We're not talking about the on-premises version, although that does have a lot of capabilities that overlaps with the cloud version. You can go and stay connected by using Outlook, although you can also go and use some of these other platforms like Microsoft Teams. But I see the one that Microsoft has listed for us is obviously Outlook. Now, you guys probably know Outlook is something we use for the most part for email. It's not limited to email, but mostly it's going to be email we're going to be using it for. You can work smarter with business class email and calendaring, so that's also going to be Outlook. They say Exchange here, but Exchange, I mean, that's email, and email is Outlook if you think about it. So using Outlook and Exchange, pretty much the same thing. You can go and do business class email and calendaring. Calendaring itself is not something new. It's something we always had on premises as well. But in the cloud, they've just built onto it so much more. You've got so much more features, so much more functionality. It's just mind-boggling, guys. You can go and organize content-rich tasks by making use of Microsoft Planner. Now, whether you've got access to some of these goodies really does depend on your subscription. Just keep that in mind. You can stay on track effortlessly by using Microsoft's Project, and we'll elaborate on all of these in just a moment for you guys. You can simplify scheduling to save yourself some time by making use of something called bookings. Yes, that's an actual thing now in Office 365, or should I say Microsoft 365 since the name has changed. You can manage your to-do list by using an actual thing called to-do. I kid you not, that is the name. There's an actual thing called to-do which you can use to manage your to-do list. I mean, Microsoft has really thought of everything. As soon as someone mentions something like, hey guys, you know what would be really cool is if we had blah blah blah, and if you go and check 3-6 months later, Microsoft will probably go end up releasing something that does just that, exactly what you just said. So yeah, I'm really mind boggled by the name. So let's take a look at the next topic here. Microsoft 365 apps helps increase productivity. Now, some of these apps we're going to talk about are partially some of the ones we've mentioned already. So Microsoft 365 apps have the benefits of the cloud. We've established that much. Now, which ones you've got access to, that really depends on your subscription. Some of them only gives you access to the cloud versions of these applications. In other words, software as a service versions. Other ones will give you the ability to go and download them and install them locally on your device on up to 5 devices. You see, there's that magic number again. So, using Microsoft 365 apps, one of the benefits is you can work across multiple devices. It's not like in the past where we were limited to laptops and desktops. Heck no! You can use this on anything. So, when we say laptops and desktops, this could also be Mac, it could be Linux. You can go and use this on other devices like phones and tablets. It works on any kind of platform, any kind of device. So, compatibility is not an issue, guys. It works with apps that are always up to date. So one of the benefits of using the cloud, in this case, the apps in 365, you will always have the latest versions of these applications and software. It's not like on premises where you have to, from time to time, go and update some of this stuff or uninstall it and install a newer version or go and upgrade and spend more money and extra money. Nope. Now you will always have the latest of the latest and the best of the best. So if there's some sort of new functionality or feature out tomorrow, guess what? You're going to have it, and it's going to be automatic, and it's going to be for free. Maybe not for free since you're actually paying for the subscription, but it's not going to cost you extra. Let me put it that way instead. Another benefit is it works intelligently through connected experiences. All of these things tie into one another. And you'll find that these days, even if something is non Microsoft, it ties into Microsoft things very quickly and very easily. In the past, if you want to connect one platform to another, or one program, or one something to another something, you normally needed some sort of plugin or add on. And this was just for Microsoft. Don't get me started on third party stuff. If you wanted to go and connect something third party to something Microsoft, it was a real painstaking process. Nowadays, anything Microsoft can connect to almost anything else Microsoft without any plugins or add ons. And the same can be said even for third party stuff. So they've really come a long way, guys. Now, some of the applications included in Microsoft's 365 apps is things like Teams. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Microsoft Teams. That's the replacement for Skype for Business. Before Skype for Business, we had Link, and before Link, we had something else. I can't even remember the name. It's been so long. You also get Word, good old-fashioned Word. And let's not forget Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and OneNote. So these are some of the applications included in Microsoft 365, guys. Now, with that being listed, let's take a look at work management tools in Microsoft 365. So when it comes to work management tools, the first one up I've got here for you guys is Microsoft Project, something we did mention briefly to you guys earlier. And some of the other ones I'm going to list here for you guys in a couple of moments is also going to be things we, for the most part, mentioned earlier. Well, just listed them earlier. That's at least what we did earlier. Now, with Microsoft Project, this is a powerful project management tool which is designed for more complex work efforts. You'll hear and see them call this project for the web, which means it's online. It's available as a cloud tool. So that means you don't have to install it locally on your device. The same will mostly apply to the other tools which I'm about to list on this little list here shortly after this one. So this project tool allows users to tackle anything from small projects to large initiatives. Project managers and team members can use this project tool to plan and manage work that may require dynamic scheduling, subtasks, or dependent tasks, regardless of the team size. With this tool, you can very quickly kick off a project and assign tasks and scheduling, keeping team members and managers on the same page. You can also automatically have the timeline update through a powerful scheduling engine, which will reduce your time and your effort spent on all of this. It's got some pretty nifty types of views you can make use of to make things easier for you and also to just, well, meet your preferences, I guess. Now, the next tool up is Microsoft Planner. This is another one we mentioned earlier to you folks. It's a very nice, intuitive, collaborative task management tool that enables people to plan, manage, and complete task based initiatives. This planner tool provides a simple and visual way for teams to organize their work. And like I mentioned earlier with the project tool, this planner is also a web based tool, which means you don't have to install it locally. You can access it online from anywhere in the world as long as you've got an internet connection. If you do decide to check this tool out, you'll see it allows you to add structure to task-based teamwork and organize the activities in your project by creating a plan. It allows you to assign and manage tasks on a Kanban board using task cards and add those tasks to buckets. All in all, this is a really neat tool with lots of cool capabilities, guys. We also have the tool Microsoft Bookings, another one which was briefly listed earlier. Looking at the name, we can guess what it's about, like with most Microsoft names. This is also a web-based tool, by the way, and it's an appointment scheduling and management system, which you probably knew already. Lastly, guys, we've got the tool called Microsoft To Do, also one of those that was listed there, although I think earlier I might have listed this one as To Do, but I think you guys get the idea. So this one is called Microsoft To Do, not just To Do. And in a nutshell, it helps you, well, keep track of your to-do list. It helps you plan and manage your day with all kinds of nifty and cool little built-in tools and features. And yeah, I definitely recommend checking this one out, especially if you're a busy kind of person that struggles to keep track of their day and of the tasks in their day. So yeah, this might be worth checking out if you're one of those kinds of folks. Okay, then, and then here, guys, we've got Jammer helps communities connect and grow. So first of all, for those of you that don't know what Jammer is, that is another benefit you get with Microsoft 365, one of the many platforms you can go and play with. Now, not all companies actually make use of this or use this tool for that part. Now, just because you or some companies don't use it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's just sometimes it's preference. Some companies just don't need it. And just because I don't need it or just don't use it, well, that obviously doesn't mean it's bad. In a nutshell, Jammer, what is that? You can think of it as a mini Facebook, except it's for business. So, I mean, we all know what Facebook is. It's a social media platform. So you can kind of sort of think of Jammer as Facebook, I suppose. It's not exactly like that, but it's a good way of thinking of it. So you can think of this as a mini Facebook, but it's specifically and purely just for your company. And on this mini Facebook, you can pretty much, for the most part, do the same stuff that you would do on Facebook. You can go and post videos, pictures, conduct polls, collaborate with your fellow colleagues and co-workers. You can go and just have chats there, all that kinds of stuff. So it's a great way to engage your fellow colleagues, especially if you're a leader, come to think of it. So that brings us to the first point here, leader engagement. So if you are a leader, it helps you very nicely to go and engage with your co-workers and the people, your staff that just basically generally work below you. And it's also a nice way if you are just one of these folks working at a company to see, well, what your manager's thoughts is, I suppose. So there was companies I used to work at where my superiors would go and make use of Jammer to go and post all kinds of useful bulletins there and just tell us their thoughts, penny for your thought, basically. In the beginning, way in the beginning when Jammer just came out, I was very confused as to what this platform is, and very quickly I learned and saw that it's actually a pretty neat little platform to go make use of if used correctly. Now, the current company I work for does use it, but they hardly use it at all. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I think the only thing they really use it for was like more for bulletins. This was more during COVID times, during the pandemic, where they would say, please remember to wash your hands and sanitize. Please remember to go and vaccinate if you have not done so. That kinds of stuff, just to engage the employees and the staff and all that. So, Jammer is to modernize employee communication. So that doesn't mean there's not other ways. I mean, we can go make use of emails, your traditional emails. You can go make use of Microsoft Teams to go and chat with them, go have calls. Heck, you can even go and invite them out for a coffee physically if you need to. But besides all of those methods, there's a nice little platform, kind of like a social media platform where you can just go and engage your employees. It's a more modern way of doing it, a non-work way of doing it, if you will. So it's still work, but it's not. It's more like a social way. It's more of a chilled environment, if you want to call it something. It's a nice platform to go and also share knowledge on. I mean, we're not saying SharePoint is bad or Teams is bad or emails bad or any of those ones are bad. There's also still great platforms, still great collaboration platforms, great ways of sharing knowledge. But Jammer is also a nice way. It's more of a chilled environment, if you want to call it that. So last we can say this platform is used to engage your employees. Probably the main point here I want to say is to engage your employees. It's a nice, subtle, chilled way of engaging employees. Well, guys, that brings us to the end of the third main section within Module 2. And here we are moving on to the fourth main section in Module 2. Can you believe it? In Module 1, we didn't have any main sections. Module 1 was just Module 1, and that was it. And in Module 2, we've got lots and lots of sections. And I told you guys towards the end of Module 1, there's probably going to be various main sections going from Module 2 forward. There's 4 modules in this course, just in case I haven't mentioned it to you guys in the beginning of this course. So this fourth main section in Module 2 is called Endpoint Modernization. Ooh, struggled to pronounce that one. Management concepts and deployment options within Microsoft 365. Pretty big name, isn't it? So let's go have a look at what they've got in store for us. So the first thing we'll talk about in the fourth section in Module 2 is endpoint management capabilities of Microsoft 365. So now the topics are starting to get somewhat complicated, wouldn't you say? So, Microsoft's Endpoint Manager includes the following service and capability. So, let's give you guys a bit of an overview. Now, what I'm about to list to you guys, like usual, is obviously not all of it. This is just simply what comes along with the course, and this is the only stuff I would worry about with regards to the exam. So, first, we've got Microsoft Intune. Now, you can probably guess this is a Microsoft tool because the name is right there. What is Intune? It's a cloud tool. Now, this course is unfortunately not about Intune, but Intune is a cloud tool that was originally designed for phones and tablets. Now, these days, we can also use it for laptops and desktops. So it allows you as the administrator to manage all of these devices regardless of where they are or what they are. So it doesn't matter if this is a phone, tablet, desktop, laptop, whatever, you can manage them. It doesn't matter what operating system they're running. It could be Windows, Linux, Mac, Android. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they are. They can be at the office, they can be at home, they can be in a different country. It doesn't matter. Now, saying all of what I just said, that kind of makes it sound like this tool is used for hacking. I mean, I just said it can be used to control any device anywhere, anytime, regardless of this and regardless of that. So to prevent this from being hacking, the catch is, and this is now going way beyond the boundaries of this topic probably, these devices normally needs to be enrolled into your Intune environment. And if you enroll one of these devices into the company's Intune environment, that basically is like saying, hey, I give permission for you to manage my device. So permission has been given. So normally what a company will do is before they issue a user of a device like a laptop, they will take the liberty of provisioning that machine of everything it needs. And one of the things they will do during the provisioning process is they will pre-enroll it into Intune on your behalf. Then you can go and take that machine, let's say it's a laptop, you can go home, you can go wherever with it, and we can go and manage your device remotely. We can see what you're running on your device, operating system wise, software wise, updates wise, driver wise. We can go and remove whatever we see. We can go and install any of those things. We can just go and check what the hardware specs of your machine is if we need to do some sort of deployment or upgrade. It can be used for so many things. Next up, we've got Configuration Manager. And that's the one Microsoft has given us here, but in fact, what a lot of people don't realize is Configuration Manager is actually part of a bigger suite of tools. It's part of SCCM, which stands for System Center Configuration Manager. It's a suite of about 6 or 7 tools, each exceptionally powerful. You can do just about anything you can imagine, well, as long as it's on premises, you can. And as soon as we start talking about the cloud, I wouldn't say you can't do the same stuff, but then you need to start tying Configuration Manager into other tools that's got cloud capabilities, something like Microsoft Intune. Now, using Configuration Manager on premises, you can pretty much do very much the same stuff as what you can do with Intune, which is now cloud. So Intune can do this stuff remotely, where Configuration Manager is kind of sort of still remotely, but it's on premises. So I can go and do compliancy scans just like Intune. I can go and install stuff, uninstall stuff, and manage all my devices on premises for the most part. Now, the next topic we've got is co-management. Co-management just simply comes down to combining 2 or more platforms, and the most common example of that, ironically, is Intune in Configuration Manager. So if you want to give Configuration Manager more functionality, like having the ability to go and manage devices that's not necessarily on premises, you can go and enable its cloud capabilities, which allows it to go and tie into other cloud tools like Intune. It's not limited to Intune, but Intune is the most common one. And when you do that, that is an example of co-management. Desktop analytics, which is our next topic here, is you having the ability to go and check all kinds of stuff regarding your devices. Now, the one they've got in mind here is Configuration Manager. So using Configuration Manager, now we can ignore the fact whether this thing is limited to on-premises or not. It doesn't matter, but generally using Configuration Manager, you can go and pull desktop analytics. So I can go and see all kinds of stuff about devices in my environment. So let's imagine this is desktops and laptops. I can go and check what softwares they've got installed or what versions of softwares they've got installed. So that if I need to go and install something, I can go and check and see, oh, you know what? They already have it. Or if I need to go and install something, I can see, oh, oops, they've got the wrong version. Their version is too old or it's too new. We don't have a license for that new version yet. You can pull all kinds of cool, useful information like that. You can go pull hardware information. So if I'm about to go and deploy something, and I need these devices to have at least 2 gigs of RAM, 2 gigs of system memory, I need to first make sure if these devices have that much memory. So I can go and pull reports using Configuration Manager to check if they've got that much memory. Compliance scan is what we call it normally. And if one or more of these devices don't have that much memory, I can just exclude those or ask those folks to bring those devices into the office for an upgrade, or we can just go and replace the devices with a newer, better one. So unfortunately, desktop analytics is more with Configuration Manager in mind, but you can in fact actually do the same thing with Microsoft Intune, just FYI. That's not the one they had in mind here. Next up, we've got something called Windows Autopilot. A lot of people have never heard of this tool, and even if they have absolutely no idea what it's used for. It's a very nice tool that even if you know what it is, the chances of you using it, it's very unlikely. Although I think during COVID times, during the pandemic, there was quite a few companies that actually started making use of it. So it's a nice little tool that allows you to go and provision machines. And I would say, for the most part, you don't even need to be able to see these machines. Normally, to provision a machine, you need to have at least have seen or touched this machine at least once at some point in time. So you can drop a file or install a certain something that's going to allow you to manage that machine remotely. So going forward, you can install the rest of the stuff you need remotely. But what if it's a brand spanking new device you've never seen, you've never touched in your life? And looking at COVID during the pandemic, that's a very good scenario. A lot of people were forced to work from home. They were not allowed to go into the office. And if one or more of these users ended up buying themselves a new device, like a laptop or something, they were not necessarily allowed to bring it into the office for you to provision it. Now, how the heck do you give these people what they need? That is where Windows Autopilot comes into play. So as soon as these folks start that machine for the first time, let's say it's a laptop, and as soon as they type in their company email address and stuff like that, this laptop will now see, oh, you are from company X. Okay, cool, I see. Therefore, you need the following. And it's going to automatically provision that machine with what it needs over the internet. Really useful function, if you ask me. There's some drawbacks to that. The drawback is if this user is using an internet connection which is limited, it's a capped internet connection. In other words, this person has got a limited amount of data per month or per week or something. It's going to eat all their data because normally it's going to go and download the Windows they need. It's going to download and install all the drivers, all the firmware, all the updates. Everything they need will be done over the internet. And this could very well end up being a lot of data. So if you're using a capped connection, yeah, you're not going to like what you're going to see. But still, it's a nice solution for us administrators to provision a machine remotely that we've never seen, that we've never touched, especially during the pandemic. Now that's a pretty cool solution, wouldn't you say? Next up, we've got Azure Active Directory. I mean, the name does tell us it's Active Directory. This is now simply on Azure, which is one of Microsoft's biggest cloud platforms. The amount of services, the amount of functions you can do on Azure is literally endless. You can go and attend all the Microsoft Azure courses, and you still would only cover like a drop in the bucket of what there is available on Microsoft Azure. It's just insane. At this point in time, I've got nearly all the Azure certifications, and yet I feel like I know absolutely nothing compared to what there is to learn about Microsoft Azure. That's just to give you guys an idea. I still feel like I know nothing. So yes, in a nutshell, Azure Active Directory is simply an Active Directory that's now in the cloud, and in this case, it's housed or hosted on Microsoft servers on Azure. And what most companies will go and do is they will go and get themselves an Azure subscription. They will go and get themselves an Azure Active Directory, and they will normally keep the one on premises, and they will go and synchronize these two with one another. And this is normally referred to as a hybrid Active Directory scenario. If you really want to, you can get rid of the Active Directory on premises and only go with the one on the cloud. A lot of companies are doing that for a lot of things in the cloud. As soon as they get something in the cloud, at some point in time, they will normally discontinue the one they've got on premises, basically in the live support. And this normally gives them many, 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 many benefits. And one of them is they don't have to maintain the infrastructure they've got on premises, whatever that might be. Unfortunately, Azure Active Directory is one of the very few things that some companies have not quite let go of on premises yet. There's various reasons for that, one of which is even though the cloud gives us many, many benefits, we're talking specifically about Azure Active Directory here, one of the benefits it does not give us is things like group policies. And the Active Directory on premises gives us group policies. And that's why people tend to keep the Active Directory on premises because they want to still keep those benefits, but at the same time, they want the benefits of the Azure Active Directory in the cloud, so they're going to end up with both. Lastly, guys, we've got the topic of Endpoint Manager Admin Center. I think the name speaks for itself. So it's an online website portal or something of sorts, and it allows you to manage all your endpoint management stuff from one convenient consolidated platform. It's not the only way you can get this done, by the way. I mean, some of these other platforms, I mean, if you can go and combine Intune and configuration management with one or another, When we talked about code management, there's also a convenient little platform you can go and use that allows you to manage all of it from one unified management little location. So Endpoint Management Manager Admin Center is just another tool of many, many tools that's in our arsenal of tools that you can go make use of to make your life easier, to manage lots of stuff from one convenient little location. That's all it actually is. Okay, and then guys, let's take a look at deployment and servicing methods for Microsoft 365 apps. In other words, how the heck do we get Microsoft apps onto people's devices? Now, there's many ways. Unfortunately, I'm just going to mention a couple of Microsoft methods for you guys, but in reality, there's actually quite a couple of non-Microsoft third-party tools that I'm aware of that people like to go and make use of as well. So there's four methods Microsoft specifically mentions that can be used for large scale deployments of these Microsoft 365 apps. These are the ones that specifically mention in this course. The first one is to go and make use of deployment from a local source with Configuration Manager. Now you would remember we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago that Configuration Manager is for the most part a tool that you would use by default on premises, unless you go and enable the cloud capability. And that little tool can be used to do all kinds of things: install apps, remove apps, install updates and drivers, remove updates and drivers, you name it. So it should come as no surprise that it's on this list and it can be used to go and deploy applications locally to your devices locally on a network. So this local source, what they're referring to, is on premises. So whenever I say local source, it normally means it's on your server, your computer. It's probably somewhere on premises. So this configuration manager is going to be running on premises. The devices in question are probably 10 to 1 on premises. And you're going to be deploying these applications from a local source. You're not going to go and download them. They've probably already been downloaded somewhere. You're just going to go and deploy them. Second method we've got here is deployment from the cloud. So we're not going to be deploying this from locally somewhere. It's online. So we're going to be deploying them from the cloud using a tool called the Office Deployment Tool, ODT. So that's a nice little tool that comes with 365. The third method here is pretty much the exact same thing, except it's now not going to pull it from the cloud. It's going to pull it from on premises. It's a local source. So this stuff has probably 10 to 1 already been downloaded. And instead of pulling it from the cloud, which could potentially put strain on your WAN link, now you're just going to go deploy it from a local source. But other than that, everything stays the same. The last one, the fourth one on our list here, is to self-install from the cloud. So this can mean a lot of things, but most commonly it comes down to the user can go to the normal 365 portal, not any admin portal, just the normal 365 portal. Once they log in with their 365 email address, their 365 account with the 365 password, and if there's any multi-factor authentication, once they provide all of those credentials, they'll land on the normal 365 portal. And then normally on that portal, it's normally on the top right hand side, the user will have the ability to go click on a button that says download or install. Now, if you don't see that button, or if the user does not see that button, it means they've got the wrong subscription. You need to have the right subscription. This ability does not come with all subscriptions. Some subscriptions don't give you any applications. Some of them give you applications, but it's only available as software as a service in a web browser. Other ones give you the ability to go and actually download and install these applications on up to 5 devices, like we mentioned earlier in this course. So just to clarify, let me switch over to the normal portal just to show you guys what it actually looks like. So here we go.
A few moments later.
All right, so here we are on the normal portal, not any of the admin portals, nothing fancy like that. On the normal portal, depending on the subscription you or the user have, you may or may not see this stuff here on the left hand side. So that's the software as a service version of the applications. You can see I don't actually see them all right now. If I would like to see more, I'm going to have to click here on apps. And if you've got the right subscription, there is the button on the top right hand side that I was referring to. So I have the ability to go and click there now. And I can go and install Office 365 apps on up to 5 devices. You'll see there's a bunch of installation options you can go and choose from as well. This button has always generally been here somewhere at the top, but the button has sometimes got a bit of a makeover over the years. And sometimes these options have changed somewhat over the years, but it always comes down to the same thing. Still gives you the ability to go and install up to 5 devices, but the amount of applications you get might vary. Sometimes you get more, sometimes less. Sometimes they'll give you a newer version. It changes over the years, but it normally is for the better. Nothing we need to worry about. So let's go back to that presentation. All right, folks, still on the topic of deployment and servicing methods for Microsoft 365 apps, let's quickly cover updates, how and when they take place, basically. So, one of the benefits of Microsoft apps is that Microsoft provides new and updated features for Office apps regularly. This can be for a lot of things. For example, maybe adding improved translation capabilities to Word or support for 3D animations in PowerPoint. It can be just about anything. Microsoft provides you options. These are called update channels. They basically allow you to control how often your organization or your client's organization gets these new feature updates. Now, before I jump into those channels I just mentioned, as needed, Microsoft also provides each update channel, which I will list for you guys shortly. Each update channel they provide with two other kinds of updates. These are released on the second Tuesday of every month. Please make sure you remember that, guys. It's released every second Tuesday of every month, these other updates. So I'm not talking about the update channels. The update channels are basically an option you can go and choose, or the user can go and choose on how frequently they get the feature updates. That's the normal updates. Now, besides these feature or normal updates, which are channels, there's two other types of updates that take place irrespective of what channel you choose. These other updates take place on every second Tuesday of every month. So basically twice a month. It's very important you guys remember that it's every second Tuesday of every month, these two other updates. That's just how important these updates are, and they will ask you guys that in the exam. So make sure you remember that, guys. Anyone that needs to go write the Microsoft MS-900 exam, make sure you make a note of that. Remember that part. So these other two updates that take place every second Tuesday, and all of these updates are things like security updates. I think we all know what these are. No need to explain them. These would be things like updates that help keep Office protected from potential malicious attacks, that kind of stuff. The second type of update that also takes place is non-security updates. These are also sometimes referred to as quality updates. These updates provide stability or performance improvements for Office, so you can see that's also very important, just like security. Now, obviously, when it comes to security and stability, these updates can't wait around until normal updates eventually kick in one day, which could take months if you think about it. These updates will therefore get installed on every second Tuesday to help ensure you're always up to date when it comes to security updates, and as you're always up to date when it comes to stability updates. They can hang around or stick around until eventually one day you or the client updates, depending on what channel it's chosen. That can wait around. These need to happen immediately, or as quickly as possible at least. As for the other updates, which are more about features and stuff, those channels in other words, those you'll get depending on what update channel you choose. The channel is simply how often you'll be getting these updates in a nutshell. So if I have to summarize the heck out of it, it's simply how often you'll be getting them. There are three primary types of update channels for Microsoft 365 apps. The first one is called Current Channel. People who choose this option will receive feature updates at least once a month, but there is unfortunately no set schedule of when these updates are released. So it's kind of like random. Microsoft generally recommends that people use this specific channel out of the three I'm going to list because this one provides users with the newest or the latest Office feature updates as soon as they're ready, where the other channels, well, they could take some time before you get them. They're generally a little bit slower, in some cases a lot slower. Now, speaking of slower, the second channel is called Monthly Enterprise Channel. This channel receives feature updates once a month on the second Tuesday of the month. This monthly update can include features, security, and non-security updates. This channel is for, well, if you want to provide users with new Office features once a month on a predictable release schedule. So this one gives you more of a schedule to actually work with. So it's going to be a zigzag between the first one and the second one, 10 to 1. The third one here is not something you'll see people using often. The third one is called Semi-Annual Enterprise Channel. With this one, updates are received every 6 months. Yes, you heard correctly. every 6 months, so twice a year. This is normally going to take place in January, and it's also going to take place in July, on the second Tuesday of those respective months. Now, like before, this update can include things like features, security, and non-security updates. This channel is for devices in your organization where extensive testing is needed before rolling out new Office features. The 6 month period at least gives you some time to go and test everything and implement fixes and adjustments where needed, of course. Now, speaking of all these app updates, now how often are updates installed on Microsoft 365 apps? Microsoft 365 apps check for updates regularly and were downloaded and installed automatically. Now, before you go ahead and ask me in the comment section down below, no, there aren't separate downloads for feature, security, or non-security updates. There's none. The updates are cumulative, so the most current update includes all the updates that have been previously released for that update channel. Now, for interest's sake, while updates are being downloaded, your users can actually, in fact, continue to use Office apps after they're downloaded. All the available updates for that update channel will install at the same time. If any Office apps happen to be open at that particular time, users will simply be prompted to save their work, so that's quite nice. They can go and close the app, they can go and save their work, and the updates will finish installing nice and chilled in the background. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of the fourth main section of this module. Let's move on to the fifth and last, yes, finally, the last main section in module 2, which is analytic capabilities in Microsoft 365. Now, don't let the name confuse you. The name is just that. It's just a name, so it doesn't actually tell us what's fully in this section. So to know that, you'll have to actually go and take a deeper look into the section. This section is, for example, not just about analytics like the name might suggest or lead you to believe. So yeah, please guys, go have a deeper look. You'll see it's not just about analytics. Alright, so in this last section, we'll start things off by covering the Microsoft 365 user portal and then also the Microsoft 365 admin center. I think for both of these, I'll be switching back and forth from the presentation as well as the actual portals themselves to give you folks a better idea of what's being explained here, since this part is actually very important for your exam. If any of you folks needs to write the Microsoft MS-900 exam, please ensure you take notes in this section, since this part is very important for your exam. Due to it being so important, that is why I'm going to be demonstrating a lot of the stuff for you guys practically on the actual portals themselves. So I'm going to be switching zigzag between the theory part here and between the actual portals as I explain things. I'm going to start things here by covering the easy and quick one first, which is the Microsoft 365 user portal. The admin one is going to be somewhat more complex. We'll leave that one for second. So this user portal is the portal the average user would normally have access to in a company. You don't need to be an IT, heck, you don't even need to be an IT person to be able to access this portal. As long as you've got a 365 login details of some kind, yeah, you're good to go. So all the user needs to do is to just go to https portal.office.com. I'll show you guys that URL in just a second. And once they're there, they simply just log in with their 365 login details, and presto behold, they will be in. So the Microsoft 365 user portal is designed for users to access their email, calendar, and documents, all of that through Microsoft 365 apps like Office, Teams, Outlook, and more. Anyway, enough said about that. Let's switch over to the web browser and actually show you folks what this portal is all about. So switching over.
A few moments later.
Well, here we are, folks. So this is the user portal. It's definitely not the admin center. We'll get to that one next. That's going to be the second topic. So this is what the average user would have access to, assuming, of course, they've got a 365 subscription and they've got a login details. Or rather, I should say this is what they would more or less see. Whether they'll see exactly this depends on what subscription they actually hold. So at the moment, I'm lucky enough to be able to see a little bar here on the left hand side, and I've got PowerPoint, Excel, Word, etc. here on the left, and those are examples of software as a service which I did mention earlier in this particular course. Now, whether you actually have access to this or whether the user has got access to this depends on what subscription you've actually assigned to that particular user. You'll notice here on the left, I also have a tile that says admin. That is not a tile the average user would normally see. You have to normally be an administrator with administrative privileges to be able to see that tile. And once you click on that tile there, that will take you to the main 365 admin center. I'm saying main center because there's in fact more than one. Now in this course, for the most part, we're only going to be covering one, which is the main one. And we're not going to cover all of it, just the main points of it, so to speak. What you basically need to know for the exam and what's specifically covered in this course. That's what I'm going to be covering with you guys. But I do want to point out that there is in fact many admin centers. Pretty much everything's got its own admin center. Teams has its own one. SharePoint, Exchange, Yammer, all of these have their own respective admin centers. OneDrive used to have one, but that got removed in July, I think 2020. I'm not sure if it was 2021 or 2020, somewhere around there. I just remember it being in July somewhere. So for some reason, Microsoft thought it would be funny to go and remove the one for OneDrive, which is a bit frustrating. Anyway, getting back to the user portal, which is this one in front of us, if the user lands here, they could potentially have the ability, depending on the subscription, to go here on the left. You see there's Outlook. This is referred to as Outlook on the web. It's a software as a service version. It's a web version of the exact same email. Now mine's probably going to be blank because I'm using a trial for the purpose of this demonstration. So if I go click there on Outlook like that, just now, here we go. Fake email I went and made specifically for purposes of this little thingy. So I'm going to say skip for now. So the fake email I went and made is exactly what I said in the beginning of this course. You would remember I said in the video description down below, there is 2 links to trials, guys. So let's just wait for this thing to load for a moment. You can go make use of those 2 links. That's exactly what I did. I think I clicked on the one that says 25 Enterprise E free licenses. It required a live ID from me, so I went and made a fake one, which is what you guys saw there. And it did not ask me for a bank card. So if you guys would like to go and try some of the stuff out yourself, go click on one of those 2 trial links. It's your choice which one. I'm using the Enterprise E3 one, but if you go choose the Enterprise E5 one, you would have the exact same things as me and more, in fact. But I'm using the E3 one in case anyone is wondering. That's the one I went and clicked on. So if you'd like to go and test any of this stuff, go click on one of those 2 trial links. They're not going to ask you for a bank card, but I am going to recommend you go and make yourself a new live ID. And you can do that by going to www.live.com, and you can literally call it anything you want. You can go choose a fake name, fake last name, you name it. Now getting back to the topic at hand here, you can see there's the portal still in the background, but my email finally opened up. I don't know why it was so slow today. 365 is sometimes slow like that. It's definitely not my internet. And for the most part, this looks very much the same as the normal Outlook client you would install locally on your desktop or your laptop. So it's pretty much got the same functionality. It's not exactly the same, but it's freakishly very close to it, isn't it? So you can also go and access all kinds of things like your calendar and all that from here. So you can see, there we go. Calendar. So I can even go and access my calendar from here. How convenient is that? So it's not just email. I can also access my calendar. There's all kinds of other goodies here. I mean, there's people. There's the to-do thing we spoke of not too long ago. There is the bookings thing we spoke of not too long ago. So but it makes sense to put that here and to have that tie into this, because normally when you work on your calendar and you check your email, you're probably going to want to go and check your to-do list. That's for you personally, most likely. You're probably going to want to go and check any possible bookings that may or may not need to happen, or that has happened already. So it's very convenient in that sense. So let me close that up. You've also got other functions here. So there's Microsoft Teams. Now, you might not have this. It depends on the subscription. So this is a web version of Microsoft Teams. It looks about 99% the same, and it is about 99% the same as the local version of Teams you would install on your laptop or desktop. It's simply in the cloud. It's simply running in a web browser. But other than that fact, it's completely the same. There is a mobile version you guys can go and download as well, which is not actually the topic here. It's about 60-70% the same. It's for free. You can go get it in the Play Store if you're using Android. It's also available on lots of the other stores. One of my phones, for example, is the Huawei P40, which does not come out of Google services, which means it doesn't have the Play Store, but you can still go and download it. I think I got it in, I'm not sure if it was Fedora or the App Gallery on Huawei, but you can still find it there. It's free. And you can probably download it on Apple as well. It wouldn't surprise me. So various web versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of that, guys. Very user-friendly, very easy to go and use. Now, depending on what extra apps your organization has chosen for the users, you could potentially go here to apps, or you can go here to the top and you'll see some extra apps. So I can go here to apps. At the moment, I don't really see anything extra. I see just a couple extra. But in some companies, if the users go click here on apps, they could potentially see a lot of extra apps depending on their license. and depending on what extra apps the administrators, which is now you guys, have given these users access to. Lots of cool goodies, isn't it? Anyway, let's go back to that presentation. Okay, folks, so we've just covered the Microsoft 365 user portal. That was very quick, very easy, because it's that simple, I kid you not. Now, I'm going to take you guys over to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Now, in reality, there is so freakishly much I can actually say about it, but this course is fundamentals. Fundamentals should tell you everything you need to know. That means it's just the basics of the basics. It's a hit and run kind of scenario. It's an overview, if you want to call it something. So there's quite a few things we're going to be looking at. The first things we're going to be looking at is things like managing users by adding them, deleting them, or restoring them. So that is something you need to know how to go and do for the exam. And it's not just for the exam. That is actually something you definitely need to know how to do in your work environment. If any of you guys are going to be using 365 in your work environment, this is literally one of the first things you learn to do. So whether you wrote the exam or not, whether you attended the course or not, when you go and do 365 in your work environment, one of the first things you're going to learn to do is normally to go and create, add, delete, and restore user accounts. That and to go and assign, remove, or change licenses. So we're going to be looking in a moment. So I'm going to list quite a few things here, but we'll start things off by managing users. I'll show you guys how to go and add them, delete them, and restore them. And then I'm also going to show you guys how to manage the licenses for those users. How do we add a license while making the user? How do we change the license after the user has been made? How do we remove a license after the user has been made? And how do we just go and add licenses after the user has been made? So I think let's start off these 2 bullet points first, and then we'll come back to this list and go and see what else we can cover. So let's switch over to the portal. Alright, first of all, yes, I am fully aware that this is still the user portal and not the admin portal. That is on purpose. Why? Because I want to show you that I need to first go here to the bottom left. I need to go and actually click on the gray admin tile. And that is in a few moments going to open what is known as the main admin center. There we go again. There's my fake email address or my fake domain. Let me just skip that. It's a trial. It's been running for a while, this trial. I don't want to stay logged in. I don't like cookies on my machine. Give it a moment or so, guys. All right, and here we are on the main Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So once again, I'm saying main because there's more than one. You can see here it specifically says E3. So I've got an enterprise license, or at least it falls into the enterprise category. And within that category, which one did I choose? I chose the E3 one. In my case, it's trial, but still nonetheless, it's a fully functional tenant if you want to go and call it that. You guys can go and choose E5 if you really want to do that. Now here on the left, this is known as the navigation pane. You'll find there's a navigation pane in all the admin centers, and almost all of them you will not by default see all the options available. Normally you will have to go click here at the bottom where it says show all. I'm going to go click on that. You'll see there it gives me much more options. At the bottom here it says admin centers now. Even though it says admin centers, don't get me wrong, those are not actually all admin centers. That's a portal, that's a portal, that's a portal. Those 3 there, Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams, those are admin centers. So that's an Exchange admin center, SharePoint admin center, and Teams admin center. If you're looking for an admin center and you do not find the one you're looking for here, let's say it is Yammer, you can go click here where it says all admin centers, and it's going to show you the same stuff on this list and much more, as you guys can see here. There's Yammer now, for example. Anyway, what was the topic? The topic that I wanted to show you guys is to create users, delete users, and restore users. We'll start at that first, and then we'll do the licensing aspect. So can you guess where the user aspect is going to be? There it is. You gotta give it to Microsoft for the name. So even if you've never used any of their portals or any of their admin centers, you can kind of figure out where what is because of how logically this stuff is organized. You can kind of think of this as going into a grocery store. Yes, I'm referring to a grocery store again in this course. When you go into an outlet, a specific store in an area that you've never been in before, maybe you want to go and buy some instant coffee, or you want to go and buy yourself some long life milk for your coffee or your tea. And because if you've never been in that specific store before, you've got no cooking clue where in the store it might be. Now, as you walk past all of these aisles, you can sometimes make a calculated guess as to which aisle you might find it down in. So if you look at the edge of each aisle, maybe you'll find dishwashing liquid at the edge of one aisle. And it'll be safe to assume that, you know what? Down this aisle, there's probably cleaning products. you'll find bleach, you'll find fabric softener, you'll find brooms, you'll find mops, all kinds of cleaning related product will be down that aisle, and your assumption would normally be correct. And eventually, as you walk past all these aisles, you'll find maybe hot chocolate at each of one aisle. Now, wouldn't it be safe to assume that, you know what? I think down this aisle, I'll probably find teas, assorted coffees, filter coffees. You'll find milks, powder milks, long life milks. You'll find this and that. So all kinds of things related in that category. You'll find your brown sugar, your white sugar, all that kinds of stuff. Now, why am I talking about a grocery store? Because Microsoft's admin centers is the same story. These tabs, you can think of them as the edge of those aisles. So when I see users there, that's like me seeing hot chocolate at the edge of the aisle. So wouldn't it be safe to assume that, you know what? I think down this aisle, I'm probably going to find long life milk. So if I go click on users here, guess what? I'm going to find what I'm looking for here. There's active users. So that shows me all the current users that currently exist on this tenant or in this pretend company of mine. There, you'll be able to see any users that have been deleted, just FYI. So if we need to go and restore any deleted users, that's where you can go and restore them. Now, before we jump in here, since I'm talking about deleted users, if you or the user needs to go and delete something, whether it be on purpose, accidental, when you delete something in 365, almost everything in 365 is retained for 30 days, with the exclusion of SharePoint. A lot of things in SharePoint is kept for much longer, up to 93 days in SharePoint, but you don't need to know that for this particular course. So all you need to know for this course is almost everything is retained for 30 days. So when I or one of the other admins goes and deletes a user account, it'll be as a soft deleted version. We call that a soft delete. It's going to stay as a soft deleted version for up to 50 days. And if me or someone else decides, you know what, we want to restore that account, we can actually go and do that, provided it's within the 30-day period. This same 30-day retention period applies to a lot of other things in 365, pretty much everything. It applies to groups. It applies to emails. It applies to everything. But if you or someone goes into that deleted box there, so there's my deleted box there, if I go in there or another admin goes in there within that 30-day period and we go and permanently delete something, it really is gone. And before you go ahead and ask me once again in the comment section, no, you cannot contact Microsoft afterwards directly and say, hey guys, can you maybe in the back end go and try and restore blah, blah, blah for me? No, they cannot and will not do that. If they had to go and retain an extra backup copy of absolutely everything, do you realize how much storage space we're talking about? Do you realize how much money that would cost Microsoft? They cannot and will not do that. I mean, they're already giving us a 30-day period there for crying out loud. And if it takes you more than 30 days to realize that you've deleted something, I don't know what the heck you're doing. All right, guys. So once again, this main section, section 5, very important for the exam. So any numbers like that I mentioned, in this case I mentioned 30 days. Make sure you make a note of that. That will be a question in the exam. How long does everything get retained in Office 365 or Microsoft 365? 30 days. Write that down. If need be, put it on a piece of paper and take that piece of paper and put it somewhere where you can see it every day. Hell, go and put it behind the toilet door. And no, I'm not even joking now. I'm dead serious. Put it somewhere you can see it every day. I would say put it in the kitchen, but depending on what kind of stove you have, it might potentially catch fire if it's over the stove. So that might be a bad idea. Let's not put you guys in harm's way. So no joke about it. Put it behind the toilet door. So when you go for number 2 in the toilet, you'll be staring at that piece of paper and you can go and read that paper. And at least you're doing something productive while you're sitting there doing other nonsense. So yeah, not joking. Put it behind the toilet door. Now getting back to the topic of creating users, let's go to the top, active users. Now it doesn't just show you your current users, it also allows you to create new ones. So I'm going to go click on active users. At the moment I don't see anything here besides that user account. So by default, when you make a new tenant, whether it be a trial or not, in my case it's a trial, you will see one user account. If that's your first user account, it's your main user account, it's an admin account. What kind of admin account? This is referred to as a global admin account. That's the highest privileged admin account you can get in the cloud, both on Microsoft 365 as well as Microsoft Azure. So there's many kinds of admin accounts in the cloud. It's freakishly long, that list of admin accounts. But the main one, the main cheese here, will be a global admin. Now, as my company grows or my client's company grows, you'll see many people here, potentially hundreds or thousands of people listed here all of their first name and the last name, and you can go and see their email address if they've got one. You can see what license they've got if they've got one. It'll show you if someone's got no license assigned. If they have a license assigned, like in this case, I can see this person's got an Office 365 E3 license. It'll show you that. And yes, you can assign more than one license to a particular user. And if that's the case, all of them will be listed here, guys. Anyway, so how do I make a user? We go to the top left here and add user. That's the quickest way and the most simple way of doing it. We're going to go through that wizard in just a second. Another way of doing it will be to go here where it says add multiple users. This tab used to be called import multiple users. Now, if you happen to find yourself on this particular portal and you do not see that tab, which is a very common situation people find themselves in, it's normally got to do with the screen resolution. If you've got a small screen like a laptop screen and the resolution is somewhat small, you might not see all these tabs and you might have to click here on the little ellipse sign and there you'll find additional tabs. Alternatively, just zoom out on your particular browser or just change the screen resolution. Now, if I go here to add multiple users, let me click on that one first because that one's quicker and easier. You can go here and add up to 249 users. You see, there is a number again. What did I say about numbers? Anything like that that's got numbers is a question exam. That, people, is a question in the exam. Up to how many people at a time can I go and import or create? Up to 249. So in the exam, they normally give you round numbers because, you know, your first instinct is to go and choose a round number. I mean, hell, I would have chosen a round number. They'll give you like 100, 50, 250, 500, and then 249. And almost nobody will choose for 249. Hell, I wouldn't have chosen that if I didn't know the answer. And yet, that is the number. It's a very weird, odd number. So 249 is normally done via a CSV file. And normally when you clicked here, which was called import multiple users, and now it's called add multiple users, that was the only option available here, is to go and download a CSV file, populate it, and upload it again. Now in the last 2-3 months, so now we're currently in August 2022, so about roughly, I stand to be corrected, I think roughly around April, May, somewhere around there, but once again, I stand to be corrected. Somewhere around there, they added this section here, which allows you to go and add a bunch of people here as well. So at the moment, you can see it's 5 people I can go and create in one go. I can go and add more rows if need be, but this is a new function. And this new function is not actually in the course, since it's brand spanking new. And since it's not in the course, it's probably not going to be in the exam. So I don't foresee you guys getting any questions about this section here, but I am telling you about it just in case because I don't trust Microsoft. Rather have and not need than need not have, as they say. So yeah, if I scroll down further here, that's the only option we had in the past. I would normally have to go click there, and you would normally be able to go and download a CSV file, populate it with users' details, and then you can just go and upload it again. So let me close all of this again. Let's get to the actual business here, which is to go and add a user. I'm going to open that little wizard there. It's not the only way to go and do it. I mean, we just showed you guys you can go and add multiple people. You can potentially go and add users via Microsoft PowerShell if you're a PowerShell guru. If not, you can always find those scripts online. There's lots of useful resources online like GitHub, TechNet, all of those. You can also go and create these users via Microsoft Azure, or you can go and create them on premises on your on-premises Active Directory and synchronize them back into the cloud if you happen to have a hybrid Active Directory. So I'm going to make a fake person here. Let's call this Sam Smith. I'm totally sucking out of my thumb here. The display name. So what will this person be displayed on as on everything? So on email and whatever. Username, you need to be careful. You can't just go and call this person Sam or Smith. Maybe if it's a small company of 10, 20, or 30 people, sure, go ahead and do that. But at the average company, which has got a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand users, you can't just go and call someone Sam. I wanted to say Smam. Why do you guys think that is? Because the chances are there's probably other people of that same name, which means you're going to have a conflict. It's not going to work. You're going to have to be a bit more creative. So I would say use the person's first name with the first letter of the last name, like that, Sam Smith. Or use their last name with the first letter of the first name. Or better yet, just use the name and last name. Then you know you're going to rule out all kinds of shenanigans. Here on the right, you would normally choose your domains if you've got lots of aliases and domains set up. At the moment, I just have this trial one, which is very user-friendly and unprofessional. But you do have the ability to go and set up your own alias, which is a user-friendly one. So in my case, it would have been sam@burningicetech.com. Wouldn't that be user-friendly? Unfortunately, I've got this one because I'm using a trial, so I'm not going to go into that. Do you want to generate a password automatically, or do you want to go and choose one yourself? Now, quite frankly, in my opinion, it doesn't matter whether it generates it or whether you choose it yourself, because this password is a temporary password. So the person, in this case, the person is called Sam. As soon as Sam logs on for the very first time, it's going to prompt him or her to change their password immediately to a more permanent password. So this password's only going to be used once, guys. So does it really matter if you go and choose it? No, I would say just let it generate one. It's normally going to be 4 letters and 4 numbers, the first letter being an uppercase, but I've seen lately they've changed that. So I can go and untick that and I can go and choose the password myself. It doesn't really matter. Require the user to change their password with the first login. That's the default option. I would recommend you leave it on that. I'm going to click here on next. Here you have the ability to assign a license should you desire to do that. Now, just because you can doesn't mean you should or that you will be able to. Sometimes, actually, quite frankly, in most companies, when you get to this page, it normally shows you all the different types of licenses that particular company has. So if you're doing this for one company, which is your company, on this page here, it's going to show you a list of the different types of licenses your company has. The average company normally has about 4 or 6 different types of licenses. It could be more, it could be less. And you can go and choose which one, or you can go and choose more than one type of license to assign to this person. Now, what you need to keep in mind here is it shows you how many is available out of those. You can see mine currently says 24 out of 25 are available. Now, where the heck do you suppose 25 went to? It went to the main global admin account. Yeah, that one that said Tristan Blank at the back, that one there, it went to that one. So I've got 24 left. Now, realistically, what I've experienced, and I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands of companies, 9 out of 10 companies I go to has 0,0,0,0 licenses available on all of the licenses. Why is that? It's because companies don't like paying for licenses that's not being used. So if they need 25 licenses, they'll go and buy just 25 licenses. They're not going to go and buy 26 just in case we hire someone new. No, they don't like doing that. So you're normally going to find there's exactly 0 left here. So you're going to be able to create the account. You can still create the user. You can see there's an option that says create user without a license. So you can create this user. You can go through all the steps in about 1 minute. It's going to take you less than 60 seconds to go through all these steps once you know how to do it. And then you would normally have to go and order a license. This could take days. Now, in my country, up until about 2016, it would normally take about 5 to 7 business days for that license to reflect on that user's portal or that company's portal. Now, more recently, my clients in my country have told me it takes as little as 24 hours. So I don't know in your countries. Every country is obviously unique. So just know that it could take as little as 24 hours, but it could also take as much as 7 business days. So in the meantime, I would just go and create a user without a license for 9 out of 10 companies. And during that period of time, that company, the bosses, they keep mailing me, they keep WhatsApping me, they keep SMSing me, they keep, emailing me, calling me, everything you can think of because they want to know why am I taking so long. They're like, but are you done? I'm like, yes, I've created a user. They're like, okay, but why is it taking so long? I'm like, sir, ma'am, I'm waiting for your license. And they're like, oh, okay. And then I explain to them how the whole procedure works, and they say, okay, cool, they get it. Literally half a day later, they contact me again about the same thing. Typical user, right? That's typical users for you. Now, anyway, when you've got different types of license here, as soon as you tick one of these boxes, you'll see this section at the bottom which says app, so that little 0. That 0 changes to a different number. That number there shows you how many goodies you get, how many toys and benefits you get with that particular license. Now, at the moment, I only have the one license here because, well, it's a trial, so I only have E3s. But you'll find in the company environment, if you tick one box, it might, maybe E3 might increase to about 75. If you click an E1, you might see it's 55. But if you click E3 and E1, you'll find now it's going to go and add those two together. So yeah, it depends on what license you choose, how many goodies you will get. I'm going to go and click on that just to show you guys. You see, I'm going to get 28 little goodies. And if I expand this section at the bottom, you'll find all the goodies and toys that comes with this particular subscription are generally ticked by default. So as soon as I give someone this license, in this case the person is called Sam, he or she automatically gets all these goodies. There's bookings, they get Planner, they get Microsoft Teams. Now, just because it comes with the license does not necessarily mean they will get it. By default, they will, yes. But as the administrator, which is me now, I reserve the right to go and do this. I can go and untick anything. Like in this case, I'm unticking Microsoft Teams, which means this person called Sam will not have Teams. Even though it's included in their license, they will not have Microsoft Teams. So that is how you can specifically deny access to a specific thing for a specific user. It's one way of doing it. So I'm going to leave it on the default. Let's click on next here. Here you have the ability to go and assign privilege to a user. This is one way of doing it. Now by default it says user, which means the person has got no administrator access. Now at my discretion, I can go here to admin center access and I can tick one or more. You'll see these are not radio buttons. These are radio buttons, which means you can only choose one. Checkboxes means you can choose more than one. I can choose two. I can choose them all. So I can go and choose these. These are main admin roles. That one being the main cheese here, global admin, of course. If I go and choose exchange administrator, this person is probably going to be an IT. It's probably an IT person then. He or she will have full-blown access, but just in exchange. Same can be said for other things here like Teams, SharePoint, and so on and so forth. But what if I have an IT person? Let's say this is an IT person, this person called Sam. And let's say this person needs to be a Teams admin, but I don't want to make them a full-blown Teams admin. I don't want them to have full-blown privilege in Teams. What I can go and do is I can actually scroll down further here. There's a section that says show all by category. And when you do that, it'll show you the exact same roles we've got here, but more. Sub-admin roles, if you want to call them that. So I'm going to leave that one ticked so you can see that it's still going to be in this list. So let's expand this and show you guys. If I scroll down further here, you can see there it is. But now I've got extra roles here. Check that out. Pretty nifty, right? So I'm going to go and untick this. I just want to show you guys that it can be done. So let's leave it on the defaults. Next. Finito. Let's click on finish. Close. And there we go. So you can see there is the user. At any point in time, you can go and delete this person by clicking there. You can go and click delete. At any point in time, I can change a license. I can add licenses, change licenses, or remove licenses. How do you do that? You click on the person's name. So I'm going to click on this person's name. Here we go. You give it a couple of seconds. It's going to open up a wizard here on the right. Everything you see in this wizard is unique and specific to this user, which is now called Sam in this particular case. So if I go and change something on this tab, or any of these tabs really, it's only going to apply to this one user. So if I go to the mail section and I go change something regarding mail, it's only going to affect this one person. Now, yes, there are ways you can go and affect everybody in the company, but that's not done here. That's entirely in a different place. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to do licenses. So I'm going to go here to licenses and apps. And then generally here is where you'll be able to see what kind of license you currently have. And you can go and turn things on or off or assign licenses as needed. Easy, right? You can see here it says view all apps and services. Check all these goodies. You can see they're all, for the most part, turned on currently. Assign license to Sam, or do you want to unassign a license to Sam? As easy as that, guys. So let's close that up. I'm going to go ahead and quickly delete this person so you guys can see what happens. Let's go click on delete. Give it a moment. I'm just going to say delete everything. Let's just delete the user. Give it a moment. You see it says unassigning user account. And there we go. License is unassigned. So now I've gotten that license back. The account's been deleted. Close. You see under active users, it doesn't show that user is an active user anymore. Now, currently, it's not gone. It's just a soft deleted version. So if I were to go to the left here to deleted users, there we go. Sam Smith is there. And it's going to stay here for about 30 days. So if I were to go click here on Sam Smith now within the 30-day period, which is where we are right now, and if I were to go and actually delete this person permanently, that would be bad because then I can't restore that person. So I need to make sure I restore this person within 30 days. There's a button that says restore user. If I click on that, I can go and restore the person, close up, go to active users, and there's Sam. Sam is back, but Sam doesn't currently have a license now. So I will have to go and assign Sam a license first before he or she can actually do anything. Alright, folks, so let's go back to that presentation. Let's go back to that list. Okay, so we've shown you guys how to add, delete, and restore users. We've shown you guys how to add and remove licenses. Next up, manage a Microsoft 365 group by creating a group. deleting a group, or editing and changing the name or description. Now, something you got about these groups you guys need to be aware of is I am going to go and create it directly now. Easy peasy, straightforward stuff. But there's a lot of things. Actually, most things within Microsoft 365 creates a group indirectly. If I, for example, go and create a team within Microsoft Teams, it creates a lot of things in the background, in the engine room, so to speak, one of which is a 365 group. The groups can have the same name. It's also going to go create a OneNote notebook with the same name. It's going to go and create a SharePoint site collection the same name. So there's a lot of things happening in the engine room that a lot of people are not aware of. So when I delete that team, it's going to also delete that group. And if I delete that team and I want to restore that Microsoft team, are you going to be able to restore the team directly? No. You will in fact have to go and restore that group, which will indirectly restore the team that was associated or linked to it. Just fun facts I felt like I need to point out to you guys. But anyway, let's get to groups. I'm going to circle back to the portal. See, here's where we were previously. So let's go back to home and minimize all this nonsense. Where am I going to find groups? Once again, stuff is clearly labeled. You can see it says teams and groups. It used to just say groups there, so they've at least labeled that correctly now. Expand that. There you will see your current teams and groups. And if I were to go and delete a team or a group, you will find those there. So I'm going to go here to active teams and groups. Currently, I don't really foresee a lot happening here. You can see there's not much happening here right now. I can now go and create myself a group like so. What kind of group would you like to go and create? There's many kinds. We're not going to worry about that in this particular course. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to keep it to a normal Microsoft 365 group. Each of them has their own benefits. I mean, for example, mail allows you to go and mail the group, but it's got security settings. That one is just security settings. So that one's got a little bit more. Distribution creates an email address for the groups, like a mailing group of sorts. Let's keep it to the default one. Next. Give it a name. I'm going to call it something simple like sales group. Click on next. You can go and assign owners if needed. So I can go and say, you know what? I'm going to go and add Sam as an owner here. Add Sam. Next. I can go and add members. You don't have to normally do it now. You can always add members afterwards. It's the same as on-premises groups. You can either add them during or afterwards. Potato, potato. Here I can go and choose an email address for the group. So if I would like to go and mail everybody that's in this group, you can go and mail them on this email address. I'm just going to call it sales at, and then whatever the domain is in this case. Let's keep it simple. Next. Create the group. Close. And we are done. And if I were to go click here, and if I were to go and delete this team or this group, let's delete it. Close it up. You'll find it under deleted groups. There it is. And then you can just go and restore it. Now, something I want to point out to you guys, if you are going to go and restore a group or a team in a real life production environment, there is a chance it could take up to 2 days to reflect, especially if it's a team. Now, mine's probably going to take about 2 to 5 minutes, but in a real company environment, Microsoft specifically says it can take up to 2 days. No, that's not a question in the exam, in case you guys are wondering. I'm just pointing it out there in case you guys are going to go try this at work. If you restore something at work and you don't see it immediately, don't panic, don't freak out. That's normal. It can take up to 2 days, depending on how much stuff it had in it and how much stuff was linked to it. So just be patient. Patience is key here, guys. Alright, so we showed you guys the group side. Let's go back to our list. Next up, we've got manage billing. Now, for a lot of these things, you need to be an admin of sorts. So for everything we've mentioned so far, the global admin can do all of that, including manage billing. Global admin can do anything. But there's many other admin roles, and some of them are limited. Well, actually, all of them are limited to a certain aspect. And when it comes to billing, the admin role that's normally used for that is the billing administrator. You gotta give it to them for the names. I mean, that is such a simple name to go and remember. So, assuming you are a billing administrator or you've assigned this role, he or she will be able to go and view all kinds of billing aspects. They can go and check the bill currently for the company. They can go and pull those reports. They can go and change things. They can order licenses, change licenses. Let me just show you guys the billing tab quickly on the portal. So here we are on the portal again. You can see there's a tab here that says billing. You need to normally be a global admin or a billing administrator to access this. You can see all kinds of billing related things here. You can go and purchase things here. You can go view your current licenses in your company, for instance. So mine's going to show I've got 25 licenses, of which 24 are available. And I can go and order more licenses on the purchase services. So you don't have to go and order it via your ISP or some sort of company that you've got an SLA agreement with. You can go and do it yourself if need be. Quite often it's going to be cheaper if you do it yourself because you're skipping the middleman. So I can go here to purchase services if need be, and I can go and purchase a license of sorts here. And if I don't see it on the initial page, which is taking forever to load, you can go around and search for it. Normally, in most cases, I have to go around and search for it. So it's going to be cheaper, quicker to go and do it yourself if you know what you're doing, of course. All right, so let's go look at the list again. Next up, we've got view or create service requests. Now, what the cheese is the service request they're talking about. So it basically comes down to when you find yourself in a pickle jam. Yes, I just said that. So there is no such thing as someone in IT that knows everything. That includes myself. Even though this course is just the fundamentals, and even though I pretty much have all the certifications in Microsoft 365, I still don't know everything, guys. I'll be lying to you guys if I said I did. I absolutely do not. So when you find yourself in that situation, not if, but when you find yourself in that situation where you just don't know how to install something, deploy something, migrate something, troubleshoot something, what do we normally do? You're probably going to go and ask a colleague first because that's the quickest and the easiest. You're probably going to go and Google it. You're going to go and YouTube it. I mean, you're probably on YouTube right now watching my video. Maybe it's because you're stuck with something. Or you can go and make a service request. Now, with a lot of benefits and features in 365, you have to have certain subscriptions before you qualify for these benefits. Now, the good news is service request is something you can do irrespective of what subscription you hold. It even works on trial. So you could be a person that made themselves a brand spanking new life either literally today. You made yourself a new trial today for the first time. You've never been a Microsoft customer. And if you get a problem, you can still go and make a service request and they will still get back to you within less than 24 hours in most cases, even with trials. So where do we find this? Let me see if I can show you guys in the portal. So back to the portal, let me just go back to home and minimize all these tabs we've got open now. So where do you guys think that's going to be? It's probably going to be under support. Look at the little earphones there. It looks like a tech support kind of earphone. So you go there, new service request, or view my current requests. Easy peasy chicken cheesy, right? Let's go back to the list. Next up, we've got manage global settings for apps. So these apps could be Microsoft apps, they could be third-party apps, or they could be custom apps that you have developed in-house with your in-house developers, or maybe you outsource this to some sort of developer and they are side loading this application for you. In other words, you're uploading it. It's a fancy word for saying uploading it. So by default, all apps are allowed. Microsoft, third party, and custom, they're fully allowed, but some companies don't like that. So you can go and deny specifically Microsoft, deny specifically third party or custom, or you can just go and allow or deny specific ones. Okay, and then the next one here on the list is view activity reports. And then we have also got view service health. So I'm just going to do them both in one shot. So view activity reports and view service health. So with activity reports, first of all, that is something we cannot just pull from the main admin center. That's where I'm going to show you guys it. But you can, in fact, also pull very similar reports on the other respective admin centers. So if you go, for example, to the Microsoft Teams admin center, there's also reports you can go and pull there specifically, uniquely for the Microsoft Teams in your environment. The ones I'm about to show you guys are going to be blank for the most part because this is a trial and nothing has been happening on this trial. But in an average company environment, if you were to go and pull these reports, you can go and see what's been happening on your Teams, what's been happening on your SharePoint, your Yammer. It's not going to tell you exactly who did what, when, where. It's not that kind of report, although you can get those kinds of reports as well. The ones I'm going to show you guys is more going to show you, okay, on Microsoft Teams, your company, there was 5 people active between 12 and 1 o'clock today. But it doesn't show you who these 5 people were, and it doesn't necessarily show you what they were doing on Microsoft Teams. So let me show you guys on the portal what the activity reports can do, or what they show you, and let's show you guys the service health as well. So first of all, where are we going to find these activity reports? Let's close that up. See the names? Easy peasy to find, right? So there's reports. Let's expand that. Usage. You guys are going to find it depending on whether you're using a trial or not, and depending on what kind of privilege you've gotten and all that kind of stuff. The tabs here are sometimes much, much more. So I'm going to click here on usage. You can see we can monitor. That's just some of the stuff you can go monitor about. Check it out. Office, Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, Skype for Business even still. By the time you guys watch this, this might no longer be an option because that's obviously falling away and being replaced by Microsoft Teams. So at the moment it just shows me one user has been active. Guess who that was? That was me. You can see this person was active on Word, so that was for something else I was doing, but that was me in fact. Files that stored. When was this? It shows the 9th of August. So the 9th of August was about a day or two ago. That was once again me. All of this stuff was me, guys. So generally, you'll see all kinds of cool little bar charts, pie charts, all that ever kind of charts where you can go pull information about all of this kind of stuff here. And if you were to go and click on one of these, you can actually go click on view more, and it'll show you much, much more. Now regarding the service health, that is here under health. So I'm going to go click on that. There is service health. Now, what's weird about service health is not the service health itself. It's the admin role you need to be able to access this. Now, it goes without saying the global admin can obviously access this because the global admin can do anything. But the role you will use to access this is called the user management admin. If I just say to you guys, the user management admin role, and I told you guys to guess what that role can go and do. If it was me, I would guess this admin role can go and make user accounts, delete them, change them, and maybe make and assign and remove licenses. And you would be correct because that's what the role can do. It says user management right there in the name, and it manages users. But for some strange reason, this admin role also allows you to go and check service health and manage service health, which I find is a bit unrelated, but that's Microsoft for you. Microsoft does weird things sometimes. So the idea here is if something in your company is no longer working, let's say email is not working at all, or to a certain extent your email is not working, you can come in here if you're the service health guy, and you can go and check if everything is healthy. So this doesn't solve the problem, absolutely not. It's just to point you in the right direction so you can have an idea where to go and look. So if everything is healthy here, then you know, well, it's not here at least. Now, before we circle back to the presentation, let me just go back here to home quickly and close all of these. We've pretty much reached the end of module 2, believe it or not. So before we go to module 3, guys, just a quick overview of some of these admin centers just for the fun of it. So if I were to go click on Exchange, just want to show you guys what it looks like. Although you guys can actually go and check this yourself if you go and create yourself a trial. Like I said, it literally just needs the live ID. If you were to go and use one of those 2 links of mine in the description down below. So you can see there is the admin center for Exchange, admin center. Lots of goodies there. I can go and open other ones here as well. Let's go open SharePoint just to give you an idea. And there we go onto the SharePoint admin center. I mean, it doesn't look like much, but believe me, there's a lot of things you can go and configure here. A lot of them are hidden options. I mean, if I go here to policies, there's hidden options. And each of these tabs has got a lot of hidden options. Still pretty straightforward. I mean, there is that reports once again. I told you guys you can pull reports on pretty much any admin center. So yeah, when you guys have got time, please go and create yourself a trial, especially if you intend on writing the exam. I really encourage you guys to go and write a trial. For some reason, this thing is bombing out on me right now. Create yourself a trial, and that's probably one of the best ways to learn is to go and make some of this stuff yourself, deploy it. Just go and try it yourself. I mean, if you break that trial, that's fine. That's great. It's the only way to learn is to go and break stuff. Here you've got the security and compliance centers. I'm saying centers like that because there used to be only one. And a lot of people think there is still just one, but there's actually 3. 2 of them are listed here, and the other one you actually need to know the URL of, and you just need to go and type it in manually. Anyway, let's go back to that presentation. Okay, so like I said, that brings us to the end of not just section 5, but to the whole end of module 2. So now we're going to move on to module 3. Before we do that, if anyone is still watching at this point in time, I think we just passed the 3-hour mark, or we're about to pass the 3-hour mark if my math is not too wrong here. If anyone is still crazy enough to watch up until this point, because it's a lot of work, go type something in the comment section like soap cookie. I love making up random words like that just for fun. Oh man, it's going to confuse people watching the comment section. Can you imagine someone reading the comment section just seeing people type in soap cookie? They're going to wonder what the heck is going on. So let's have some fun of this. So if you guys are still watching this point in time, please do me a favor. Let's have some fun. Go type something crazy along the lines of soap cookie. You can go type something else too if you really want to. Just keep it neat, keep it discreet. Don't go and swear. Don't go and type something naughty. We don't want the YouTube police on our necks here. But yeah, I would suggest go type in soap cookie. So soap, SOAP space and then cookie. Go and type that into the comment section. If you've got any questions about the course, about this exam, you're also welcome to post those in the comment section down below, guys. I'll do my best to answer any questions you guys might have regarding the course or about the exam. And if you haven't done it already, I did say it in the beginning of this course, please give the video a like. I mean, for crying out loud, we're at the 3 hour mark here. We're not even done yet. We've got 2 modules left to go. So it really is a lot of time and effort from my side to make these for you guys. So the least you can do is give it a like. Don't be that guy. And if you'd like to know when I release other courses like this one, remember to subscribe, obviously. So let's jump into it. Here is module 3, Microsoft 365 security and compliance capabilities. Now within this module, the first section we'll be looking at is security and compliance concepts. You'll notice the name is very much the same. So that the module's title is security and compliance capabilities. And the first section's name is concepts, capabilities and concepts. Now this third module and fourth module should be a lot shorter. I think if memory serves, module 2 is the biggest one in the course. So module 1 was about give or take an hour. Module 2 was about give or take 2 hours. But module 3 and 4 should go a lot quicker. So we're definitely over the halfway mark by far. Anyway, so the first topic we've got in this section is shared responsibility model. Now we did somewhat touch on this earlier. I believe it was in module 1 somewhere, where we had to first explain to you guys what the cloud is, and then we explained what private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud is. And then within the public cloud, we mentioned some of the main sections, which was software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. In between those, I did give you guys a table earlier in this course, somewhere within the first hour, where we did a bit of a comparison as to how much is your responsibility and how much is not. Now here's another little table for you guys. Pretty much the same thing if you think about it. So you can see there, way on the right where it says on premises, all the blue blocks means it's your responsibility. So what we're saying there is if something is on premises, it's your responsibility and just your responsibility. You have to do absolutely everything. And like we said in module 1, with cloud, you're always going to relinquish some level of control. Ugh, got my tongue in a knot there. So you're always going to relinquish some level of control. The question is just how much. That will be determined by what kind of cloud you're using. You can see there infrastructure as a service. A good example of that will probably be a virtual machine. There you've got pretty much the most control out of the lot here. So you can see there the gray blocks at the bottom of infrastructure as a service. You do not have access to the actual physical data center, whether it be yours or whoever's. The physical network, the actual switches and network cables and stuff, you cannot touch it. You can go and create virtual networks voice. You can configure it, but you can't touch it. So it's not really your responsibility. Physical hosts. So the actual servers with the actual RAM chips and hard drives and motherboards and stuff, not your problem. So you can create a virtual machine and you can go and choose how much storage it needs to have, how much memory it needs to have, all that kinds of jazz. But that's about the extent of it. Now, from that point forward, on that virtual machine, you've got full control. You can choose any operating system you want, and on that operating system, everything is your responsibility. If you move a little bit on to the left there, platform as a service. Remember, I gave you guys examples where in module 1, I believe I gave you guys the example of frozen veggies and that pre-made meal, all that. Basically comes down to some provider, in this case Microsoft, has done most of the work for you, and you just kind of swoop in at the last minute and just reap the benefits. Examples of platform as a service will probably be Azure's Active Directory, like I mentioned earlier in this course, but it could also be other things like SQL, if we talk specifically about SQL on Azure. Way on the left, we've got software as a service, where you've got the least amount of control. It pretty much is just the software running in a cloud, and you just have access to that. Now, that doesn't mean you've got no access and no capabilities when it comes to configuration. You can still do quite a lot there, guys. Anyway, I think you folks understand this one pretty well, especially since we've already technically covered this in Module 1, but this is Microsoft for you. They like to go and repeat themselves. Next up, we've got the topic of concept of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This is known as CIA for short. Now, the first thing I would like to point out about this, guys, is do not confuse this with the CIA in the United States. So there's like a federal authority of some kind in the United States, I believe. I'm not a United States citizen. I'm not from America. But I am aware of the CIA in the United States. This is not that one. So to avoid confusion, this is sometimes referred to as the AIC. So it's literally the CIA just backwards. AIC. But it means the same thing. So what does CIA stand for? It's there in the title. So we're going to first look at confidentiality, which is there in the title. We all know what confidentiality is. That means you keep something to yourself, or it's for certain people's eyes only. So this could be a lot of things. If I've got certain documents or resources on my own machine or a company server or a cloud server, wherever this might be, confidentiality would be to make sure that only certain people can see the contents thereof. I wouldn't say to keep people from accessing it. Maybe certain people can still transfer it and copy it and stuff, but we do not want them to be able to view the contents thereof. So there's many ways you can achieve this. Encryption is probably the most popular one. So if you go look at something very simple and very popular like BitLocker, that is to go and encrypt the whole hard drive of your laptop or desktop for argument's sake. And when you do that, that gives you not just security, but gives you confidentiality. So someone cannot see what you're doing. Confidentiality would also be if you go use a VPN connection, like I mentioned way in the beginning of this video. So if you go and use a VPN connection like the NordVPN I spoke of, that gives you confidentiality. So if you're going to go and do your online banking, your online shopping, or whatever, and there's some sort of weasel of a hacker somewhere here in the middle that's trying to intercept that traffic in the hopes of getting your username and your passwords or something like that, guess what they're going to see? Nothing. Or if they are going to see something, it's going to be rendered useless into all kinds of ciphertext like ones and zeros, or it might look like Egyptian symbols. So it's basically rendered useless to them, giving you confidentiality and also giving you security. So what the heck is the integrity? Integrity is to basically say this document is from where it says it is, or this email is from where it says it is. This contents of whatever this is has not been tampered with. It's original. It's authentic. This can be achieved by many ways, one of which is also encryption, more specifically things like digital signatures. So if I were to go and make a physical contract and physically sign that contract, and you get that contract and you see my signature on there and you see it's legit, then you know the contract, the document itself is legit, giving it integrity, and you know it's authentic. Now, what about a digital document? Now, with a digital document, you can also go and apply various kinds of digital signatures. Yes, you get more than one kind. And if I send you an email or a document or whatever way, and you eventually get this, and this could even look like it's coming from me. Maybe you get an email from me, but how do you know it's really from me and someone's not forging my email address? Because you can do that. That's called spoofing, by the way. So if someone forges my email, sends you a document just like I would send, and you were expecting this document, how do you know it's the original? You're going to check for that digital signature. If it's not there, you know the integrity has been compromised and someone has tampered with it, or this is not the original at all. So integrity is just to make sure the contents has not been tampered with and that it's the original. But it does not necessarily provide you with confidentiality. So if I add a digital signature to a document, that prevents people from tampering with it, but it does not prevent people from seeing the contents thereof. Confidentiality prevents people from seeing it, and in most cases also gives you integrity, coincidentally. Now, availability, the last one here, that's somewhat unrelated, but it is part of the CIA. That's just making sure the resource is always available. Making sure you've got two or more of everything. So if this resource is running on a server, making sure you've got two servers, making sure you've got two network cards on those servers, making sure you've got backup drives on those servers. So if the hard drive fails, the resource is not unavailable. If the network card fails, the backup card will carry the load. If the server fails altogether, there's a backup clone server carrying the load. You need to have a backup internet connection. So you're making sure the service or the documents are always available and there's not any point in time where it's not accessible. Two or more of everything is what we're saying. Okay, and then next up we've got the zero trust model. What the heck is that? So the zero trust model has three principles which basically guide and underpin how security is implemented. The first one of the three is verify explicitly. It comes down to always authenticate and authorize based on the available data points. So what you want to do as the administrator in a company is you want to try to force your users and their devices to authenticate in as many ways as possible. Any possible data points you can use, you should try to use. Data points, in case you're wondering, would be things like identity. This means the person has to provide an email or a username combined with a password, passport. A data point can be a device. So this means they can only access resources if they use certain types of devices. It has to be a laptop, has to be a desktop. Oof, I'm tired because this course has been too long. Has to be a phone or a tablet. Yeah, you can see I'm really tired. Or it has to be domain joined. Companies don't like it very much when people use their personal devices, so you can force people to use a domain joined device. Another data point can be service and workload. It can be classification. Heck, it can even be anomalies, for crying out loud. Anywho, the second principle is least privileged access. It refers to that golden IT rule where you never, ever give a user more privilege than what they need to complete a task. This can be done in so many ways, but in this instance, they're referring to things like just in time. So it's called just dash in dash time, just in time. It overlaps somewhat with what we said in the first principle. I can and should control from where users can access resources. Usually these days, companies only allow users to access data if they're either physically at the office or physically at their homes. As soon as a user tries to access data online from any place other than the office or their home, they're going to be denied. In most cases, this goal will be achieved using the user's public IP address because as soon as they go anywhere else, that IP address will obviously change. So with just-in-time access, you can limit what times of day a user can access the resource. Kind of sounds like kids, doesn't it? You can limit how many times a day. You can go and limit how many concurrent sessions to a resource there will be, and much, much more. So you see, pretty much, I think you guys get an idea what it's all about. And then, folks, the third principle is called assume breach. Basically means you need to configure everything and treat everything as if you've already been breached or compromised. Always assume something in a company has already been breached or compromised. If you work that way, then you can't really be in for a surprise because you were assuming it anyway. So with that in mind, you'll be doing things like implementing the least privilege concept we spoke of just a moment ago. You'll segment access by network, user, devices, and application, and the list goes on. You'll use things like encryption everywhere where possible to protect information from being leaked or compromised. The list goes on, of course. Moving on to our next topic here, compliance concepts. So, with compliance concepts, this comes down to how and where your data is stored in a nutshell. It's not like in the old days where you could just go and store data wherever for how long ever. Nope, times have changed somewhat. Now, I'm not saying that was always the case in the past. I mean, if you go look at institutions like banks and law firms and whatnot, they normally had to legally store data for an X amount of years in a certain manner. But these days, those kinds of regulations and laws and policies are becoming a lot more common. And it's not just as easy as in the old days where you can just go and store data on a server and there you go. You don't have it. Nope. So, depending on the nature of your business and the nature of your data, the data might have to be stored in a certain manner. It might need to be stored for a certain period of time and much more. So, when we talk about compliance concepts, there is three main things we talk about. The first would be data residency. When it comes to compliance, the data residency regulations govern the physical locations where data can be stored and how and when it can be transferred, processed, or accessed internationally. These regulations can, however, differ significantly depending on jurisdiction. So you'll see a lot of countries at this point in time are implementing continuously new, I would say, let's call them cyber laws if you want to call it something, but it's not just cyber laws, it's more privacy laws combined of privacy laws and cyber laws, and all of these are combined. They're continuously being updated, and these days, a telemarketer can't just go and call you like in the old days because it's a violation of some sort of privacy act somewhere 10 to 1. Anyway, the second main thing we talk about with regards to all of this is data sovereignty. The concept that data, particularly personal data, is subject to laws and regulations of country or region in which it's physically collected, held, or processed, this can add a layer of complexity when it comes to compliance because the same piece of data can be collected in one location, stored in another, and processed still in another. making it subject to laws from different countries or regions. Bit of a pickle, isn't it? The third main thing we talk about is, of course, data privacy, providing notice and being transparent about the collection, processing, use, and sharing of personal data are fundamental principles of privacy laws and regulations. So, yeah, I mean, we in my country have all kinds of new privacy laws and cyber laws now lately, and it's really a thorn on my side, let me tell you. Anyway, well, folks, that brings us to the end of that section, and we're moving into the next main section here, which is identity concepts. So this is about user accounts in a nutshell. It's not just that, but it's going to circle the concept of user accounts because that's generally what identity comes down to. So the first thing we'll touch on in this section is authentication and authorization. So starting with authentication, you can think of this as step one. It's not an official thing in the course. I just like to refer to this as step one. So what is authentication? That would be when you or the user proves they are in fact who they say they are. They are in fact the owner to this device, or they are in fact the owner to this account, whatever it might be. This can be done via a million ways. It could be something as simple as a username and a password, email address and a password, in other words, something you know. It could be via something you have, maybe like a phone acknowledgement that you need to go and do of some kind. It could be biometric in nature, so it could be something like a fingerprint, retinal eye scan, voice recognition, facial recognition. So the point here is authentication is proving I am the owner to this account or this device. That can be seen as step one. Now, the second one here is authorization, which I like to refer to as step two. Unfortunately, step two doesn't always kick in, so to speak. It depends on what we're talking about. If you look at something every day that we access, like our Facebook, our Gmail, our Twitter, or Instagram, generally of those kinds of things, you obviously have to prove you are the owner to those accounts. And that's done obviously via authentication. But once you've done that, you've got full blown access to that account, and that's that. So authorization doesn't exactly take place there if you think about it. So where does authorization take place? A good example would probably be an Active Directory environment in a company. So assuming you're working for a company which has got an Active Directory, which is pretty much all companies these days, generally you would be required to provide a username and a password on that company's Active Directory. We're not talking about whether it's in the cloud or not, that's irrelevant in this scenario. Now once you've done that, that is to prove that you are not just an employee or a member or something there. It's to do a lot of things. So now you first go and prove you are in fact an employee or a member of that organization. Once you've done that, now step two kicks in, which is authorization. That would be to check how much access or how much privilege do you have as that particular user. So in my case, it might say, oh, sorry, you're just a trainer. Therefore, you only have access to slides and manuals and videos and whatever you would expect a trainer to have access to. Or it could say, oh, hang on, you are an administrator. You've got access to all of the following. Or you are a manager and you've got access to all of the following. You see where I'm going with this? Alright, so I think you guys pretty much get the picture there. So that means I can move on to this next topic here, which is identity as the primary security parameter. So you can see we are going to somewhat overlap there with two of the topics we just spoke of. So the middle ones I'm not going to spend too much time on since you guys, well, I hope you at least understand that. If you don't, please rewind back to what I just said. So what the heck is administration? That would be the creating of the actual accounts. So remember, we're still talking about identities here, identities being accounts. So administration would be creating accounts, recovering accounts, deleting accounts, changing account details, that kinds of stuff. Stuff we don't normally want to go and do. That's the kind of stuff you will assign to the rookie in a company. Have the juniors do it, is what I always say. So that's administration. Authentication, that's proving you are who you say you are. Authorization is checking what level of privilege you have as that user you just proven that you are who you say you are. Auditing, well, in a nutshell, that's keeping logs, keeping tabs or anything. So if you go look at the average medium to large size organization, especially the larger ones, they sometimes have dedicated people purely just there to keep an eye on the logs. Their job is just to audit everything. And in this case, we're talking about user accounts. This is just to go and check, has there been any accounts that's been created, changed, or deleted that stands out? So they're going to keep an eye, a hawk's eye on everything. And if they see, hang on, We just created 5 new user accounts, but yet we hired no new employees. Why? And they're going to go and investigate, and then they might find, oh, you know what? It was the main administrator that made that. They made a bunch of dummy accounts because they wanted to go and test permissions and policies and that kinds of stuff. Or if they see suddenly a couple accounts are being deleted, yet nobody's left the organization. And when they're going to investigate, they might find, oh, okay, you know what? It was a bunch of Smurf accounts. In other words, dormant accounts that were no longer in use. So yeah, that's pretty much what the auditing comes down to. And that's it for that section, guys. Quick and easy. I told you, module 3 and 4 is going to go a lot quicker. So here we are already in the next section, threat protection with Microsoft 365. So things should hopefully go a lot smoother and a lot quicker from this point forward. So you should give yourself a pat on the back for sticking along all the way to here. Remember, guys, if you haven't done it already, leave a crazy comment in the section down below that says something like soap cookie. Or you can go and say something else like banana telephone. I don't know what you guys say, but make it interesting. Make me laugh. Say something totally ridiculous like that, and let's see if we can confuse people that's reading the comment section. That'll be a lot of fun. Alternatively, if you've got any questions about what we've covered so far, or if you've got questions about the exam, you're more than welcome to pop that in the comment section down below as well, guys. Also, remember to give the video a like. And you can see I've already spent more than 3 hours and we're still going. So, for crying out loud, give me a like. Anywho's, so here we've got Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Now, I'm sure some of you guys have already heard of the word Microsoft Defender. I mean, that's something we normally are used to having on our machines at home or in the office. But believe it or not, you also get Microsoft Defender in the cloud on 365. Yep. And even though it gives us many benefits, you will not necessarily get these benefits unless you have the right subscription. I mean, no surprise there. Microsoft's continuously trying to make money out of us. And even if you do have the right subscription, you still need to go and turn this little bugger on in the cloud. Yep, it's a real inconvenience. Now, assuming you've got the right subscription and assuming you've actually went and turned it on, you still need to go and configure a policy or a something for whatever you want to go and get. So what am I talking about? We get things like safe attachments. Now, if you want this benefit, you have to make sure you've got things like ATP. And to have ATP, you need to have an Enterprise E5 license. The last time I checked, I stand to be corrected. Microsoft's continuously changing the benefits and the drawbacks of these subscriptions. But the last time I checked, you need to have an Enterprise E5 license. And with that license, you get something called ATP, which is short for Advanced Threat Protection. Comes with many security goodies, one of which is safe attachments. So this is mostly used in email, but it's not limited to emails. So it kind of works like in the old days where you would install an antivirus on your server or your computer, and when someone sends you an email that's got an attachment, you would find before you can open that email, there was sometimes like a 20 or 30-second delay because your antivirus wanted to go and scan that attachment first. It comes down to the same thing, except now it's happening in the cloud, folks. You've got an antivirus and a firewall, an anti-spam filter, and an anti everything in the cloud. Now, that does not stop you from getting additional security on premises. At the end of the day, the more, the better. But if you don't have stuff on premises, it's not the end of the world. You've got stuff in the cloud, assuming you've got these benefits. So with safe attachments, you first need to make sure you've got the right subscription. You need to make sure you've turned on Defender in the cloud. And once you've done that, you need to go to safe attachments and you need to actually go and create a policy. Now, what's going to happen here with safe attachments, I think to help elaborate on this, let me actually go to the portal. All right, so I still have that portal open from earlier. You can see it still shows that same nonsense from earlier. So to get this, we need to go to security and compliance centers. I can't remember which one it is because they're continuously moving stuff around. I'm going to click on both of them. I know they always take long to open. So I don't know why. That's got nothing to do with your internet connection. You'll see on your side as well. It's got nothing to do with internet connection. It's just they take long normally to go and open. So let me get this rolling. And then we're going to see if we can find the safe attachments function. Now, I'm using E3 here, so I'm not sure if I'm going to see it. So we'll see.
One eternity later.
All right, here we go. So the portals seem like they're both loaded. It took a bit of a while there, so I had to pause the video there for just a couple of seconds until the page is loaded. Otherwise, you guys will sit your board. So you'll see here's the one center. It's got all kinds of things, and I do tend to overlap with a lot of these options. So I'm looking for something specific. I don't see it this side. Let me check this side. Ah, there we go. policies and rules. So with me using an Enterprise E3 subscription, I do not expect to see what I'm looking for. I would need to have an E5. So if you guys would like to go and test this out, which I do encourage you to go and do, rather create an E5 trial. So you would remember I said there's 2 links in the video description down below. One gives you 25 E3 licenses. The other one gives you 25 E5 licenses. So with this topic in mind, I think it might really be better for you guys to use the E5 one instead of the E3 one, because at least then you'll have the safe attachments and safe links and all those other goodies that you can go and play with. So you would normally have to go here to policies and rules. Let me at least show you where you can find it. And then you're going to go here to threat policies. You might see extra options here if you're using Enterprise E5. So if you click on threat policies in E5, you'll get to the same page here, but you'll see way more, yes, more than this even, on the E5. So normally here where mine says policies, you can see it says anti-phishing, anti-spam, anti-malware. Here you would see safe attachments, and you would see safe links, and a whole bunch of other fun goodies. That is where you would find that. So when we talk about safe attachments or safe links or those kinds of stuff, this is where you find it, folks. So you just click on safe attachments here or safe links here if you find those functions. It's going to open it up, and there you'll be able to turn on Defender. So I think there's a tab at the top that says organizational wide settings or something. You just click on that, and there's a button. It's literally like a flip switch where you can just go and turn Defender on or off. That easy. Anyway, let's go back to that presentation. So what do safe attachments do? Like I said earlier, it's going to scan the attachment. So when you or one of your users receives an attachment in an email now, and this attachment turns out to be harmful, malicious in some sort of way, you get to choose what happens. Now, by default, it's going to go and block it. It's going to quarantine it, and only you as the administrator can go and release it from quarantine. Users cannot go and do that. There's about 4 other options you can go and choose from. I can't remember them all. So one of them is to do dynamic delivery, which means it separates the attachment from the email, and then it delivers the body of the email, the text version of the email, immediately to the user, and about 20-30 seconds later it reattaches the attachment after it's scanned it separately. That's for those fussy users that says, I want my email immediately. As of 20 seconds is going to make a difference in their life. Really? You get those kind that just basically says monitor. I really do not encourage you to go and use that one, which means you're basically leaving it and you want to see what happens. Why would you want to do that? That's crazy. So unless you're a crazy person, you can go and choose monitor. There's one that says does nothing, which is even more crazy. And then there's a 5th option that says, okay, you know what? Release the body of the email, the text version email, but still quarantine the attachment. So that one might not be too shabby. Now looking at the next topic here, safe links. So this is also mostly an email, but it can also be used on other platforms. It can be used in Teams or wherever. So when you or the user receives an email with a harmful link, it's going to go and scan that link and basically check where it leads to. And if it's going to compare it to a very large database or archive or repository of known harmful links or websites. And if it turns out to link to one of those, it's going to say, nope, don't have access to it. Now, it goes without saying that this thing is not 100% effective. Obviously, at some point in time, something is going to slip through the cracks here. Then we've got anti-phishing, we've got anti-spoofing. So if you know what phishing and spoofing is in IT, that's that, obviously. So phishing is when someone's phishing for something personal, like a username or a password, or credit card details, anything like that. They're phishing for sensitive information. So this is going to prevent that. So when your users receive those emails where someone's trying to fish for their private sensitive details, this is going to block that. Now, me and you guys might know what to go and look out for, but we are in IT. What about people that's not in IT? We're not saying these people are dumb people. They could be a doctor, could be a lawyer. They're smart and clued up in their own respective field, just like we are in our respective fields. So it's a mutual respect. Just like it's a doctor's job to keep me healthy, it's my job to keep that doctor safe, digitally speaking, of course. So with anti-phishing, that's going to help protect that doctor against those emails where someone's trying to fish for his username and password or his banking details. Anti-spoofing. So spoofing is when you forge something like a phone number, email address, IP address, MAC address, you name it, it comes down to forging. So when someone spoofs an email address, for example, and they pretend to be someone they're not, an organization they're not, and they send that email to one of your users, the system 365 will detect it now and block it or quarantine it. Lastly, we've got alerts and incidents here, folks. So alerts and incidents, 365 has got so many kinds of alerts you can go and configure, and incident reports you can go and look at. So whenever something happens, pretty much anything happens in 365, there's an alert, there's an incident report, You can go and look at it. It just depends on whether you've got the right privilege to go and look at it. Okay, and then folks, here we've got the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. Although I should actually add a picture here for you guys. I'll do that in just a sec. So a few capabilities accessible from the left navigation bar in the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. So for reference, here is that picture. Might look slightly different by the time you guys go onto this because Microsoft's continuously changing this stuff. So take any pictures you see in this course with a pinch of salt because they are subject to change. We are talking about the cloud here. So in that small little picture on your screen, on the left, that navigation menu. There is a lot of tabs, there are a lot of features and functions and stuff. So just to name a few, here we've got incidents and alerts, we've got hunting, threat analytics, secure score, that's a pretty neat one, learning hub, reports, and of course permissions and roles. So once again, I really encourage you guys to go make yourself a trial, especially if you intend on writing the exam. Cannot emphasize enough on how important it is you go and just at least just browse around. Make yourself a trial, go check out this portal, just go click on random tabs and just see where they take you. So guys, there are some of the main ones I want you guys to go and look at. You can see there's much more, but if you're going to go create yourself a trial, that's why I've got this picture here, go and look at those ones I've just listed. Those are specific ones I want you guys just to go and have a peek. Anyway, so with my little begging there out of the way for you guys to go and make a trial, no, I'm not getting anything out of that when you guys use the trial links. The only thing I get is if you guys were to go and use that link to go, that NordVPN link that's in the video description down below, for that one, I get a portion of the proceeds. But for the trial links, I get nothing. So that's just really to help you guys out. Anyway, so we have reached the end of Module 3. Can you believe it? That was a lot quicker than Module 2, wasn't it? So that brings us here to Module 4. Finally, this is the last module, guys, so we're almost at the end. Module 4 is Microsoft 365 licensing and service and support. So let's have a look at this topic first. Support options for Microsoft 365. So it comes down to when you find yourself in a pickle jam, what can you do about it? So it's not if, but when. So we will get stuck at some point in time of something in 365. And when that happens, what can you do? Now, yes, you can go and ask a colleague or a friend. Yes, you can go look online on Google or YouTube or whatever. Yes, you can even send me a message on Discord, or you can drop a comment down below and I will gladly answer your questions. So if you guys get stuck with an issue at the work, by all means, you're welcome to drop those comments in the video section down below as well. Try and keep it related to the video though, please guys. So if it's a 365 related issue, try and post that comment on a 365 video. I mean, it just makes it easier for me and it avoids confusion of the other people to actually read the comments. Alternatively, yeah, add me on Discord and then we can do it there. So what are the support options for Microsoft 365? So the ones I'm about to list here are strictly Microsoft. They are strictly on the portal for the most part. So the first one is community-based support. You've got proactive support. You've got web chat, email, and phone support. So you can actually talk live to Microsoft. Yep. You can go and email Microsoft. That's no surprise. I mean, show me an entity or a platform you cannot email these days. You can talk to them on the phone. That's very old school. People don't really do that anymore. You get pre-sale support. Now, that's probably the one where I've seen the best support because at the end of the day, it always comes back down to making money. And if they're about to make that sale, that's probably when you're going to get the best support. It's right before you buy something because they want you to buy it. And if you're even remotely uncertain about something, they will gladly, very quickly assist and help you with whatever that question might be or that concern might be. But once you've bought it or paid for it, yeah, there's going to be a bit of a delay then when it comes to support, like anything in life. We've also got Fast Track. I myself personally am not a fan of Fast Track. You can go and use it. I'm not saying it's bad. I just really don't like it. So what they don't mention with regards to Fast Track is it's not available of all subscriptions. And there's certain criteria, let's call it prerequisites, that needs to be met first before you even qualify for this. Yep. So the last time I checked, and I stand to be corrected, guys. Obviously, you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I don't know everything, like I said. So I will not take offense if you correct me. The last time I checked, you need to have at least about, I think, 50 subscriptions to be able to get Fast Track. So if you're a small company of about 30 people, yeah, it's not really going to work now, is it? I believe you also need to have a certain amount of seat size. I just can't remember what it was. I feel like it was something between 100 and 150. I feel like I want to say 120. stand to be corrected once again. So by all means, if any of you guys know for sure, yeah, correct me in the comment section down below. I'll love it if you correct me. I will not take offense. So what the heck is Fast Track? That is a team at Microsoft that is there for you, and they are there to help you with deployment issues, migration issues, installation issues, pretty much anything 365 related. This is not limited to just email or just SharePoint or just Exchange. Pretty much anything you can think of, provided you obviously meet those criteria. Now you might wonder, okay, but why do I not like Fast Track? Is because they keep everything strictly Microsoft. Now, I'm not saying Microsoft is bad here, but sometimes Microsoft is not the best for the job. Sometimes a third party might be more user friendly. Sometimes a third party might more be cheaper. They're not going to cost nearly as much. So those are some reasons. So sometimes Microsoft just is not the best for that particular situation. Now, when you get Fast Track, they will keep it strictly Microsoft. Whether it's the cheapest solution or not, whether it's the best solution or not, they will keep it strictly Microsoft. They also have the nasty habit of locking out of your own environment, which I've seen quite a couple of times. So if Microsoft assists you remotely, whether it be a Microsoft party that's in your country or whether it's the actual folks from America, potato potato, either way, they're going to lock you out. And I find that to be a little bit unethical because the next time I want to go and fix something myself, I might even know how to go and do it. Now I can't because they've locked me out of my own environment. I have to contact them now. That's not very nice. You also get premier support for Microsoft 365. And then lastly, guys, support through a Microsoft partner. I used to be that Microsoft partner where I used to work as a main engineer for a Microsoft partner. And I had many hundreds, maybe thousands of companies I was looking after. Every company had a different environment. Some had cloud, some did not. Some had on-premises servers, some did not. Some had this, some had that. So with a lot of these companies, most of them, I was that Microsoft partner while I was working as an employee for that partner. And whenever they had some sort of issue, I would assist remotely or I would drive out to the client if they were close enough. Obviously, they get billed for that. And I would normally take care of whatever issue they were experiencing. Anyway, folks, guess what? You're not going to believe me. That is the end of Module 4. So Module 4 might easily be the shortest one and the quickest one out of the lot. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm really glad. I'm happy. Because I'm really, 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 really tired. My mouth feels like a cotton ball from all this talking. You try talking for 4 hours straight or more. And for you guys, it might be like 4 hours. For me, it was probably more than 4 hours because there's certain parts I need to go and edit out. You wouldn't believe it, but it's not always as easy as it sounds in these videos. I actually stumble across my words. Sometimes I fumble and I forget what I was going to say. My train of thought, or sometimes my phone would ring in the middle of a recording and then I have to go and answer the phone. And then when I get back to recording, I can't remember what I was saying. That does happen to us. You wouldn't believe it, but because you can't see it, but it happens. People interrupt me all the time while I make these sessions. It's nearly impossible. So before you guys disappear on me, let me give you guys a couple of things, just a couple of pointers. So here's a bit of a summary. First of all, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is 365 trial links in the video description down below. So I really encourage you guys to go and make use of that. I recommend you use the E5 one and not the E3 one, but I've put the E3 one in there as well, just in case someone needs that. But if you're not sure which one to go and use, my suggestion is you go and use the Enterprise E5 one, guys. Make yourself a trial. Go to www.live.com. Make a fake email with a fake name, fake last name. Practice as much as you can before you write this exam. Alright, and then just a reminder, there is a NordVPN link in the video description down below as well. That one I do get a portion of the proceeds should someone be interested in getting themselves a VPN. That really is the best one out there. It's the fastest one out there. And if you're serious about your security, that's a great way to go about it. Or if you just like to go and access resources that's in a different country, like streaming services, that's one way to go about it. And then, guys, if you haven't done it already, go and drop a comment down below of any questions you might have about the course or the exam. Or alternatively, just drop a random comment there just for fun. Say soap cookie or banana telephone or anything else random that comes to mind. Make me laugh, make my day. And then before you guys disappear, just a thank you to you guys for watching my course. Thank you for supporting my channel. I really do appreciate it, guys. And I really want to wish you guys good luck with your exam for the guys that's going to write this exam. For those of you that just attended the course because you want to know more, because you were struggling with an issue at work, you're more than welcome to ask those questions in the comment section down below. Maybe I can help you guys out. If you haven't done it already, please give the video a like. For crying out loud, we're reaching 4 hours here, so the least you can do is give it a like. If you'd like to know when I release other episodes or full courses like this one, remember to subscribe. Very last part of this video, a special shout out and thank you to the sponsors. So I've got a couple of people on Patreon, got a couple of people that send in donations via PayPal, got a couple of folks that also clicked on that thanks button below the video. I also get those. Thank you very much. So there is the sponsors. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate the support. If you guys would like to do the same, you can find that information also in the video description down below. Alternatively, you can just click on that thanks button below the video. Alright, folks, I hope you've enjoyed the course. I really hope you guys have learned something, and I wish you all good luck with your exams. See you guys on the next course.
If you love me, let me know. If you don't, then let me